1 car coming out of the pits, going up to the gears as it goes on to the fastest part of this 2.5-mile racetrack. Approaching turn 1 at 170 miles an hour, a full lap into turn 1, second gear. Application of power all the way around its corner, really start to lay on it here and go up through the gears. Second, third, fourth, maybe fifth, up to about 140 miles an hour down this short straight. A bit of an opportunity to pass if you brake really hard with this little right-hander, which leads you up the hill behind the Renaissance Center. A bit bumpy just at the bottom here as you go under the bridge. One shift up, back down a gear. Round that, clip that apex really close there, up to a difficult part here to overtake. The road meanders left. There's no way you're going to get past anybody here who wants you to stay out. Left here, slightly left, and then it really tightens up here. More braking, down into second. A lot of power here as you go through the Congress Park, under the trees. The road sweeps right, sweeps left again. You want to make sure the car starts to go over to the right here, then you brake really hard and go onto Beaubien Street, down to second gear. Hold on to second gear as you go left. Brake again, right. Onto the second part, the second fastest part of the track. This is Larned Street. Out of the light, into the tunnel, up to 145 miles an hour. Very, very bumpy here. Again, another place to pass here as you brake into this left, right complex again. Second gear. Hold on to second. Turn right here. Accelerate very hard down this next straightaway. 145 miles an hour down here. Up to fifth gear. Again, very bumpy. Sharp left-hand turn here by the Cobo Hall. Going down Civic Center Drive. Now the road again goes left, left again, downhill, right, under the bridge. Stay in one gear here. Swerve it here. Second, maybe up to third. Down to first, the slowest corner on the track. Really hard acceleration here. First, second, third, fourth, fifth as you go under the Atwater Tunnel. Very confusing as you go out of the really bright light into the pitch dark and back to bright sunshine again. Braking hard alongside the car park here behind the hotel. Right, left, very bumpy this left-hander. Throws you out to that right-hand wall, but it's also bumpy by the wall. Fastest part of the course coming up. A wicked left over the curve there. Right, left chicane. Extremely fast, 130 miles an hour. As the car accelerates up to fifth or even sixth gear, and the car reaches 170 miles an hour to go past the start finish line.
64 laps for 2 hours, and the first lap, the formation lap, is now taking place. They'll pull up here to the start line and then start from a dead stop. The entire field this afternoon. They have about 4 seconds before the light goes green after all cars are in formation and locked down. Not a start like they had in Italy when Patrese was still rolling and tried to come up through in that terrible incident with Ronnie Peterson 2 years ago.
It's one of the things they do have to be careful of to make sure. There's Rosengass has already stopped. He's spun and stopped, or just stopped.
And that's the last place car. That is one of the Zaxby's cars.
Don't see any skid marks there, so it looks like maybe he just had a problem rolling back down the hill, because that's just out of turn 2, isn't it?
Yeah. This is one of the smaller teams, underfinanced compared to the others. Zaxby is known to American viewers. He's involved with IMSA racing with a Ford project, but this is his own 4-cylinder engine in there.
In the 4 previous races, 4 different winners. In 1982, they called John Watson the street fighter when he came from 17th to win it. Then Michele Alboreto won it in 1983 for the Ford Cosworth engine, the last time they came to victory. And Nelson Piquet from the pole in 84, and of course last year, Rosberg victorious. So those are the previous winners. That car has now been pushed off the course, Walkengotter's car, and we're getting set for the start. Here's the point breakdown. 9 points for a win, 6 for second, only 6 cars scoring points, and we'll show you 6 positions in our standings throughout our telecast today. Again, we are live at the Renaissance Center in Detroit, and we are in the first of the 64 laps. This is the formation lap. They'll be pulling up to the line for that dramatic moment. Probably nothing in sport equals that moment when 100,000 plus become totally quiet, and these engines sing their great song.
Also, something interesting here is you don't see them weaving so much as they do in, say, IndyCar racing. The main reason is they use a blanket that preheats the tire before the start of the race. So they've already got their tire temperature up, and we should see a good start here.
Temperature in the 80s, and the wind is extremely brisk. Here you see them coming online. Under starter's orders now. That wind going to be a factor, gentlemen?
I don't think the wind will be a factor here, but the wind is bringing with it cloud. It may rain later on.
Field about to go under the lights. When they all come to a halt, there'll be a 4-second delay. And ladies and gentlemen, the commencement of the Grand Prix. Annual Detroit Grand Prix is underway. Stefan jumps out in front, and it's Ayrton Senna jumping in front of Nigel Mansell in second place around the hairpin. Ayrton Senna is first. Mansell is in second.
And that's Ronnie Arnoux in third. Made a great start too. Those two cars going right there side by side. One of them was one of the McLaren.
Right. Also interesting, Arnoux was second quickest in the morning warm-up, so he should provide some good action.
I think that's very significant. The morning warm-up is a very significant time of practice. And Arnoux did go well this morning on full tank.
Somebody else I've noticed who's made a good start is Eddie Cheever in the Lola Ford, so he's going well. He also goes very well at this track.
He goes well here, and of course he's the only real American in the race, so I'm sure a lot of people are going to be there. Eddie Cheever with the red car with the red helmet.
Eddie Cheever driving for Patrick Bombay, injured a week ago prior to the race in Montreal. Chris Economaki has this report.
Well, we just find out on pit road here that Nigel Mansell is starting this race on the hardest Goodyear tires available, which means he's to try and go without a tire stop. Back to you.
Senna in first, Mansell in second, Arnoux in third, Piquet in fourth as the race goes through its second lap.
Mansell, Senna just locking up there as he came into the sharp hairpin, leading onto the Atwater tunnel. There they're trying to get past him under the bridge there. Mansell, let me go in the gloom under the bridge.
I think this is exactly what Nigel wants. If Senna, he's on a little softer tires, he's going to push Senna a little bit, and hopefully his tires is not having to make a pit stop to help him.
The Ferrari of Stefan Johansson has pulled up into the fifth position. Remember, he ran here very well a year ago. The red car in the Ferrari has not been having a good year. So the second lap is complete.
Eddie Cheever going very well as they passed the box here. He was up to 9th place in the Lola Ford.
Eddie Cheever, who came in late, and the first day just said he was about 15 feet behind the car through the entire practice period. But he certainly gathered it up and out-qualified his teammate Alan Jones by a pretty big margin to come into this race.
That front five there, it could be just slightly possible that Senna holds them all up a little bit. I don't know. There's the McLaren of Frost is catching up to that group, becoming his fifth spot. There he is. And right behind him is in fact Jack Lapine in the other.
And I think somebody who looks like he wants to have a bit of a go is Stefan Johansson in the Ferrari.
I know,
He's making an attempt on Piquet right there, but
Arnoux in the blue and white car, the Ligier. Off to a good start this season, running in third. Winner of 7 Grand Prix, only ran 1 Grand Prix. He's challenging Mansell a bit here. He just ran Brazil last year and then was retired by Ferrari. I think better word is fired.
This is one place, of course, where it's no good just letting exuberance. Cars cannot roll overhead here because there's just no room for error. And you've got to be very smooth and very controlled the whole time. Sort of like you guys did in Indianapolis, I would imagine. You know?
that's right, particularly at this stage of the race, because everything is going to settle down and sort itself out.
It's a long way to go. No good trying to win in the first lap. There's Nelson Piquet, Nigel's teammate, being pressed hard there by, in fact, Eddie Cheever.
No, that's Stefan Johansson.
Johansson in the Ferrari. Stefan Johansson, who came into that team a year ago.
And Nigel's goal on the front straight.
Nigel Mansell taking over in first as they came down the main straightaway. On the fastest part of the course, Senna drops into second position, and challenging now is Arnoux. You see those sparks coming off the car. They're still under a full fuel load here. The tray's dragging.
That's right. It's not actually a tray. They have titanium skid blocks that are under there to keep the bottom of the car off there. And when it hits, it just throws up a spark. We'll see more of that now, but as the fuel load lightens, we won't get quite as much spark. And of course, that's banned in IndyCar racing because they think it's dangerous to the driver behind them.
I don't think it's very dangerous, but it certainly looks pretty spectacular. And it's just one way of keeping these cars running really low without burning the bottom of the car out. Second and third place cars, the Lotus of Senna and the Ligier of Arnoux, have both got the Renault engine. So straight to hold Arnoux out. That's playing slightly dirty pool, really.
At this stage of the game, that's a little rough because, you know, we're 3 laps into or 2 laps into it.
There's Arnoux making another stab. Coming to Cobo Hall.
There's going to be wheels off here if we're not careful before long, because Arnoux's not going to put up with that for long.
Senna was off there a year ago. That's the very area of the track.
But I think something interesting is Rene Arnoux is a very tough driver, and he is not going to put up with that for long, not at this stage of the race.
The trouble here is that if either of them do make a mistake, they're going to be both out of the race, just like that.
Right. The other thing is that Nigel Mansell's loving all of this because of course they're battling and letting him get away from everybody.
Getting away from them and everybody else as well.
There's that scrap going on for second position. Alan Jones, who qualified 21st, is now up to 14th. Jones in that Carl Hobbs car.
Also, we just noticed too that Henry Rosberg had moved up past Eddie Cheever. And I think Eddie's really concentrating on having a good steady race and finishing. So
Live from Detroit here on CBS. The Detroit Grand Prix, 5th year, and the battle is for second position. One car pulling on Derek Warwick with the Bravo. That very low car, lowest Formula One car out. We're talking about reducing the horsepower on these cars, trying to slow them down. And team owner Bernie Ecclestone said, I have a solution. We'll give them all 9 new cars. There's Warwick in quickly and back out again.
Now, he changed his rear tires. He told me before the race that he was going to start on the hardest rear tires that Pirelli could give him, because he wants to try and do the race without a stop. I guess he realized they were too hard for Detroit.
And there is, I think, the Cesare who is in trouble here. Either he or Nannini pulled off the course, and he's gone in behind some of the barriers around this course. Those block barriers, you see, those concrete barriers, they had a rent-a-block deal this year. You could buy a block or rent it for $500. A terrific bargain. Put your name on it. Message to your
Nigel Mansell's talking about terrific bar, but Nigel Mansell's got a terrific bar at the moment, too, with those other two twerps scrapping it out there in second spot.
And not only that, but the group behind them, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th place is now closed up.
That was turn 3. There you see it as to where that incident took place that took out one of the minority cars.
That red spot.
That red spot.
Like the one on the end of your nose again.
Here's Barry Gill.
Well, Ken, that's a pit stop we didn't expect. Derek Warwick, driving in second place with Graham, overtook his tires at the start of the race, has come in to change all 4, and it only took 9.5 seconds. Back to you, Ken.
Barry, they were talking about a brake problem here today, and it appears that the Lotus seems to be working very well under full power. When it gets in these corners, it's not operating as well, and Arnoux catches him up.
Yes, but the interesting thing here, Ken, too, is both of them have the same type of engine. They're both under Renault power. And we were just watching on that straightaway. It seemed like Senna pulled out on the straightaway.
He could be using more boost, of course. They have cockpit controllable boost, but that's where they have these. They have their readout gauges now to tell them how much boost they can or cannot use.
That's right. I'm not surprised if Mansell turned his up just to get by him once he got his tires up to temperature.
He's never going to get such a clear track as this, because in another 10 or 15 laps they're going to be starting the lap traffic, and Nigel just won't have the clear run he's got at the moment.
Senna stays second in car number 12. Had a tremendous battle with Nigel Mansell in Brazil, first race of the year, and Nigel came out the loser. Nigel losing a tire there. Senna was then defeated by Piquet in round 1. Then they went on to Spain, and it was the Senna car that came home first for his 3rd and last Grand Prix victory. Right now, his adversary through several races, they had a real brouhaha in Adelaide, Australia last year, is in second place, and there's Arnoux continuing to challenge as they come to the Atwater Tunnel.
Yes, and of course, Nigel has to be loving all of this because he's just getting away and he's not using very much road and probably not putting very much pressure on the car. Would you think, Dave?
Well, it's certainly giving him a much easier run than he ever imagined he'd get. He's got a pretty substantial lead already. And Senna is really making life incredibly difficult for Rene Arnoux in 3rd spot.
There's Prost, and right behind him comes Alboreto, followed by Rosberg as we look further back. That is 7th, 8th, and the 9th position you saw there.
And I believe Gerhard Berger's moved past Eddie Cheever. Berger, of course, has that very colorful Benetton car. And have you noticed that the wheels, the sides of the wheels are all painted in various colors?
We'll get a shot of that later. Designer wheels in Formula One racing.
Yeah, designer tires is the one thing. Now we've got designer tires as well. There's Eddie Cheever coming up the hill.
Cheever is making a great run of it today.
I think they're having had some conversations after the warm-up this morning. There was a lot of guys that are going to drive a fairly conservative race because they feel they all have brake problems. And they want to make sure that they figure the only way to get through to the finish is, of course, to make the car last.
It is extremely tough on brakes here. Between the warm-up section this morning and the afternoon race, they were all adding more dusting onto the brakes, putting pipes low on the calipers and the disc and everything else, so they're expecting brake problems.
We'll be back with more live coverage of the Detroit Grand Prix in a moment. We'll return with more coverage after this word from your local station. With 8 laps complete, a battle for the lead developing. Mansell's lead has evaporated, closing to the Ayrton Senna in the black number 12, the Lotus Renault car against the Williams Honda. That big advantage, which had stretched to over a second and a half, is now less than a car length that they worked on lap number 9. Rounding out the top 6.
Now we're seeing Dean Edelman to the 1986 Grand Prix season. These two men aren't very fond of each other. And then is about to try and dust up Nigel Mansell. I think that Senna definitely stops better than Nigel, but Nigel's got more power, and he pulls away through contact there and blocks all Senna's efforts to get round him.
And David, I think it's definitely brakes because you see Mansell goes down a little bit to the inside of the corner, doesn't stay right on the line, so he's obviously blocking him a little bit.
Yeah, he's going to block him down here too, I'm seeing it. This is the sort of place where Senna is particularly good on the brakes. Arnoux has caught up with him again. Arnoux dropped back just for a couple of laps there, temporarily dropped back a bit, but he's right back with him again now.
But you see the power there, so I don't think he's got an engine problem, and it just seems like he closes up under braking.
He sure does.
But the interesting thing, too, is that those three have now pulled away from the pack. So once they got once they got Nigel back in their sights, they turned it up a little bit.
Yeah, but not too far from the pack. Arnoux is still right there in third spot.
Arnoux has moved right, and they've all pulled away a little bit from Nelson Piquet, but I think he's only about a second and a half behind.
Here we go.
There he goes down the inside.
Ooh.
A beautiful pass by Senna.
Very nice.
Mansell gave him room, mind you, but it was a good pass. He didn't give him a lot of room, but he made a good job of that.
Blue and white car, Arnoux lying third.
Yeah,
and here comes Arnoux making a challenge, and Nigel Mansell falls back to third.
He must have a problem with his brake.
Yeah, he's got some sort of quite a serious problem there if he's dropping back that much. Maybe we were wrong. Maybe he did use the car harder than we thought in the early stages, or that they had gambled on the wrong type of brakes. There was a lot of guys that were changing from carbon fiber discs or rotors and pads to actually steel discs before the start of the race.
Well, right behind Nigel Mansell now is his own teammate, Nelson Piquet, just coming into the picture there. It'll be interesting to see if Nelson can put him away like the others have.
Let's review just a bit further back.
Piquet at the feet.
7th position is Prost. 8th is Alboreto. 9th is Gerhard Berger. Rosberg, last year's winner, is in 10th. Cheever is 11th. Patrese is 12th. And Thierry Boutsen maintaining 13th.
Now Senna's got the lead. He seems to be putting a bit of distance between himself and the rest of the field. Pulling away quite a bit there from Arnoux.
There you see the interval between second and third between Arnoux and the Nigel Mansell car.
Hey, those Ligiers are going very nicely because Jacques Lafitte is right up there.
We have one car off of one of the benefits.
Yeah,
Berger. He doesn't seem that he's hit anything. He just seems like it's slid down there and stopped or something.
That's a shame, because Gerhard Berger is one of the up-and-coming young men in Formula One racing. He's come from absolutely nowhere and done incredibly well, beating a lot of established stars. He's really only a saloon car driver.
Happened in turn 8. He was running in 9th position. And on that 90-degree turn, Gerhard Berger's day ends here in our live coverage of the Detroit Grand Prix. There you see Senna pulling away. Now you see the second spot. That is Arnoux. And then in the third position, Nigel Mansell. Looking a little further back, 4th position is Piquet. And then the red Ferrari runs in 5th.
And we just have Keke Rosberg going into the pits as well. So he's obviously in for something.
Here's Chris.
All right.
Chris?
Yes.
Go ahead, Chris.
I'm here with Alessandro Nannini, the first man out of the race. What is the trouble?
Problem for the turbo is crash of the turbo. There's a fire in the car, it's a stop. Okay?
Okay, thank you, he says the engine trouble is what he's saying back. Now down pit road to Barry Gill.
Well, friends, these nice gift-wrap parcels here, looking as though it's silk with a Velcro, are in fact Ayrton Senna's tyres, waiting for him to come into pit, perhaps about lap 27. You may be surprised that these cars need a pit stop. Well, I must tell you, it's strategy, not necessity. By starting the race on the softer tyres, which wear out more quickly, the drivers can gain about 1.5 seconds a lap. Now, if you're any good at mathematics, you realize that's about 100 seconds during a race. So even if a pit stop, including slowing down, takes 45 seconds, you've gained a minute. And in motor racing, that's a lifetime. Back to you, Ken.
Arnoux is getting gathered up here.
Arnoux not only getting gathered up, but Jacques Lafitte's teammate is right behind him.
There's Chindrani at number 21 in the Osella Alfa Romeo on pit road. That's taking a little more time than they would wish.
There seems to be some funny pit stops because Kenny Rosberg has stopped and changed tyres. You remember he won this race in the Williams Honda last year, and it's awfully early in the race to stop the tyres.
Battle for second position. Arnoux there in the blue and white car of the Leger.
You know, the interesting thing here is it looks like Nigel's now either cooled his brakes down and seems to be back in the hunt a little bit. He's pushing Arnoux a little bit more.
And on that horseshoe, watch the next time for Win Mansell, because he runs the line just as close to that inside metal barrier as you can go, right down to within it seems like paper thin.
But Jacques Lafitte, driving the second Leger there, got around Nelson Piquet, a previous winner of this race. So Piquet may be having trouble with him on the Williams as well. Right. Or they could be, you know, Nelson's also one of the smartest drivers on this tour. He could be just playing a little bit of a waiting game and saving his car for later in the race.
Yeah.
Nelson is a smart driver.
Johansson and Alboreto running nose to tail. They are in the 7th and 8th position in those Ferraris. Danny Sullivan went out and took a look at these machines and gave us this story about the cockpit on those numbers 27 and 28.
I'm sitting here in the cockpit of Stefan Johansson's Formula One Ferrari. The biggest difference I know between my Indy cars and this car is the low side and the high-tech dashboard. One of the things, of course, in all modern race cars is a removable steering wheel for easy access and exit in case of an incident. Here on the dash, this is the big difference between a Formula One car and an Indianapolis car. Everything is computer-aged here in the Formula One car. The top line here is for your boost control. The bottom line here is your electronic tachometer. Then we have, of course, for the oil and the fuel. But this one right here is the real magic. This is what shows the driver how many laps he has left to run on the fuel and at the pace at which he's running. And this, of course, knob here, if he's running too fast, he has to turn this down, which that is the boost control. I drove a Formula One car in 1983. The big differences over the last 2 years is the computer-age technology. In Indianapolis cars, we still require the mechanical time, and there are pros and cons to both of them.
There's your leader.
Well done.
Senna out in front.
I like that.
I thought you were very spoke in defense of those Indy cars with the mechanical readouts rather than the computer. Wouldn't you like those computers in your car?
Well, I don't know. They've also had a lot of problems with them, as Alain Prost found out at Imola a couple of times.
Talking about Alain Prost, we haven't mentioned him once in this broadcast, but he is in fact lying sick. And of course they do call him the professor, and he does definitely drive with his head and not his heart. And I certainly wouldn't count him out of this race.
Actually, now he's
There he is in the back of that
right there, seems to be moving up.
Right behind Nelson, who is right behind his teammate Nigel Mansell, the two Honda Williams together, being followed by the McLaren.
So you see Arnoux in second, the blue and white car, then Mansell, Piquet on the move, and definitely closing up. And also in that cluster is Jacques Lafitte.
And also, Stefan Johansson has dropped back into the clutches of Michele Alboreto.
Alboreto has passed him, I think.
Who of course won this in 1983.
Lafitte is in fourth. Change on that now. Up to fourth comes Piquet. Lafitte drops to fifth. And Prost stays sixth on the field.
Is this the first lap car we've had?
I think it is, yeah.
So we're getting into back markers at this stage.
26 cars starting the race.
Tell you what, Alain Prost is kind of putting pressure on Piquet and Nigel
Very much.
Mansell.
Stefan Johansson's dropped back a long way behind his teammate Alboreto, which will be disappointing to him because Stephan's job could be on the line, the Italians being very pro-Italian, obviously, and he's got to do well.
Two retirees thus far, Nannini and Berger out. Let's go down to pit road and Barry Gill.
Sorry?
Barry Gill, please.
In the days when Danny Sullivan was a driver, and even in the distant past when David Hobbs was a driver, they could tell little lies about what had happened a bit on the track, what had happened to the engine. No more. What you're looking at is a Grand Prix lie detector. Its official name is a telemeter, and it monitors, believe it or not, every heartbeat of the two engines in the Honda Williams cars right through the race. Everything from the temperature to the fuel consumption to the speed of the moving parts. Every bit is then taken back to a research depot, and believe it or not, Honda have 1,200 people working in their research department. They reckon that engine, the engine that Mansell's got and Piquet's got, cost something like $23 million to develop, and this is how they test whether it's working or not. Now over to Chris Economaki.
Well, Grand Prix racing is truly an international sport, and the Osella team have their own cheerleaders from Italy. I can't read what the T-shirts say, but if Construzione means built, then the T-shirts are very accurate.
Let's take a look at the standings here as we move into the Detroit Grand Prix in our live CBS coverage. There's the leader, Senna, and there you see second place, which belongs with Arnoux and the Ligier team. Jacques Lafitte is pulled into third as they swap them around. Falling back are the Williams cars at the present time. We'll look into that story when we return after these messages. What appears to be an unscheduled stop has taken Senna and the Lotus team out of first place. It has put up into first and second the Ligier team, Arnoux, and the oldest driver at 42, Jacques Lafitte. 1-2 on the field. Mansell back to third. Frost is in fourth. Piquet is in fifth. And Almiretto in sixth. And let's go to Chris Economaki.
Ayrton Senna, who perhaps was going to go without a pit stop, had to make a stop to change a flat right rear tire. But while he was in here, they changed all four tires, and he's back on the track. Back to you.
I think also one of the interesting things here is that both of the Ligiers are, of course, on Pirelli tires, and the rest of the field, or the field that's running fast right now, is on Goodyear. So maybe they have a little bit of a better tire, and that was the comment down the pit lane, that the Pirellis here had a tire that handled better at this type of track.
Senna, you just saw him. He is now in eighth. There are your two leaders, the teammates from France, Arnoux and Lafitte. Down into turn one. Surprising turnaround in this event. Ligier first and second.
Yes, that's right, Ken. There's something interesting here, too, as David and I both know, even though they're teammates, there's probably not a lot of love lost out there at the moment. Jacques Lafitte, I bet you, really wants to lead that race.
Boy, I'll say he does, yeah. He always has been that way, and he always will. And I mean, it's tremendous to see a guy of that age driving with such incredible spirit and verve.
A tiny man stays in such tremendous physical condition. Lafitte in the second position, 42. He has won 6 races, Arnoux 7. Look at them scraps. Now there is Senna back there in the 8th position. Trying to do catch-up here now.
I wonder if this is like a repeat of the French-Brazilian soccer match yesterday, you know, that...
Maybe they caught fire. There's Senna. He's trying to close on Johansson, who is running in 7th. There is a follow-up on the Senna story. Here's Chris Economaki.
Okay, I'm down here in the Lotus pit. Here's the board. He is in position 8. He is 19 seconds behind René Arnoux. It will be interesting to watch the man in the fastest car in progress from here on in. Back to you, Ken.
First and second position, and trying to draw away from Nigel Mansell in third, who is beginning to feel some heat from Frost. Frost has come from 6th up to 4th in the last 3 laps as he continues his campaign. Remember, Frost, the first Frenchman to win the World Championship, did it a year ago, now leads in the standings with 29 points. To Senna and Mansell tied at 27. Challenge for the lead here.
But one of the problems that Senna's going to have, of course, is he's got some pretty serious races to get by until he gets up to these leaders.
Now here's that battle. They're lapping the Brabham car and going into the first turn. Arnoux now stays about 4 car lengths in front of Lafitte. Keke Rosberg appears to be out of the race. Rosberg may be retiring in the McLaren. Rosberg, the winner here a year ago in this event.
I think it's Martin Brundle.
Brundle appears he's either got a flat or something appears
tunnel, isn't he?
Well, the slowest corner right before the tunnel, but that's the other thing I think that we have to be careful of with Senna is that maybe he's going to overdrive it now trying to get back, and it's really quite a bit left in the race.
Now there is Senna closing up on Johansson as we look back to the battle for 7th position.
Senna's not going to give up easy, although Senna split back. He may have made the wrong tire choice or some problem with his car.
He told me earlier, after the warm-up, that he's very, very concerned about his brakes. He didn't know if they would go the distance.
Battle for 7th.
Well, Senna seems to have no care of his brakes, so probably he'll whistle by Stefan at the end of this straight.
Johansson trying to hold the position. Senna closing to 7th place. Senna moving up.
I don't think that Stefan really tried very hard to keep him behind him. I think he's obviously got a brake problem.
We have one car stopped at the entrance to the tunnel, they tell us.
That's
Brundle's car.
Brundle.
Yeah.
One of the Tyrrell cars in trouble. Here's Barry Gill.
Well, I'm with the man who won last year, who I expected to win here. What happened, Peggy?
That joint is blown up.
Senna and myself were the only ones to take the hard tire. From the field, it felt that it was a better tire. We knew there was a risk that they might grade before they get hot enough. That's exactly what happened. And they moved all their grip. It's like you can't even drive straight line anymore. But that wasn't so bad because I thought, okay, I'll come and pick up the other tires which everybody else on and then try to go through with them. So I wasn't too worried about that. There's something in the transmission broke. And I mean, the car was still running, but it's just too risky when something was going clunk already in there. You have a seat back end and go on the wall here, so it looks better to stop.
Becky, I'm glad you're in one piece, but sorry you're out of the race. Thanks for talking to us.
Well, transmissions, of course, this is probably the toughest track in the series on gearboxes, and they're reckoning these guys are going to have to make about 2,000 gear changes throughout the course of this race. And there goes Lafitte. A beautiful move on his own team.
Very good. You saw what I was talking about. There wasn't a lot of love while there wasn't. They just really took both of themselves out.
Yeah.
I don't think Ligier would have enjoyed that.
There were nearly 4 Pirelli tires then, but they were all going to be separate rather than in different directions.
Ligier had a win in 1981. I would certainly like to turn things around here in Detroit today.
And I bet it's been a while for Jacques Lafitte since he's had a win as well. And I would imagine he'd like to turn it around.
We saw the Ligier doing so well at the British Grand Prix, if you remember, on CBS way back in 81, I think it was.
Austria and Canada, their last victories in that year. Now with this new power plant, and they seem to really have adapted well to this 2.5-mile course.
The other thing, too, is it looks like Nigel is again closing up on the first and second place car. So he's obviously got some problem that goes in and out, which could very well be brakes. They get hot, he has to slow down a little bit, let them cool, and then he can pick up the pace again.
It could be, and right behind him, of course, is your actual Alain Prost. So just lurking in the background, we no one's quite sure where he is. Ready to pass near the end.
Mansell in third, running about a half second down. And right now, Prost is on the charge in that 4th position, trying to catch up Mansell. More in a moment. And welcome to the Renaissance Center in Detroit. At the end of 20 laps, the front 6. Lafitte is in front, our new Mansell, Prost, Piquet, and Senna. Top 6, Michele Alboreto just outside. Here's the attrition out of the race. First man out was Rossengetter in one of the Zach Speed cars. Nannini is retired. Gerhard Berger is down. Rosberg is out, last year's winner, and now one of the Tyrrell cars, Brundle, who had second and was disqualified from this event a year ago. There's Nigel Mansell, and there is Prost in the 4th position, number 1, closing in. And we should see Nelson Piquet. Now there is Senna, who is really on the move. He is back to 6th position. Remember, made what seemed to be an unscheduled stop. And now has that Lotus low-powered car thundering. There's your leader, Jacques Lafitte, the elder statesman in this game. Second oldest is Alan Jones, who is having a great day. Jones started 21st, and now he is in 12th. There's Nigel Mansell, 3rd position, trying to make it 3 in a row. We're live with you at Detroit. And there's 4th position, the number 1 car of Prost.
You know, the interesting thing about Prost as well is that he's won 23 Grand Prix in a couple of years. He's never won a Grand Prix in North America.
No, he obviously wants to very, very much. It's the place they all want to win races, but boy, he's a consistent winner, there's no doubt about it.
Arnoux trying to make a move as they come up on a back marker, one of the arrows down.
Christian down in the arrows car there, holding up Jack Lafitte a little bit.
That's Terry Bootson, I believe, in that car. No, it's further back.
It is down. Dan Danner.
A couple of things, of course, while we were away on commercial break was that Nelson Piquet turned the fastest lap, and then just after him, Jacques Lafitte turned the fastest lap, which I think were both
now Rinianu has turned the fastest lap, so they're all trying pretty hard. And meanwhile, lurking behind them, catching up hand over fist is Senna.
Let's get a word on what happened to Gerhard Berger. Chris?
Well, I'm one of the young lions on the Formula One circuit this year, Gerhard Berger, but you're going to be walking home tonight. What was the problem?
Problem was electric. My engine go out after 10 laps. Before was very good, had no problem. Was only a little bit difficult to pass the other cars. It took me good race for me.
What about the track, Gerhard, and these drivers that are on the hard tires? Will they be able to go the distance without stopping for fresh tires?
I think we had a very good tire. The Pirelli tires are on this circuit much better than the other ones. And I think this is why it would be our race.
No, but can a driver that has hard tires go without stopping?
I don't know, sure, but sure we had only one stop. And the others, sure they have more stops.
Okay, thank you very much for Gerhard Berger. Back to you, Cal.
Austrian driver Gerhard Berger, who started the year with 2 sixth-place finishes, and then when they got to San Marino, had a great day and finished in 3rd.
And was very nearly on pole for the Belgian Grand Prix. Got eased off just in the last few moments of qualifying.
Well, here we are, looking at the Ligier team, trying to get themselves back into a winning way here this afternoon. And one of the most popular drivers on the entire tour, Jacques Lafitte, the veteran, 6 Grand Prix wins, 7 for Arnoux. They continue their own squabble up in front, a family affair that is not very friendly. Here's Ayrton Senna. Remember that he is maintaining the 6th position.
But I'll tell you, that first 5 is going at a great pace, and they're not very far apart. Nelson Piquet, you know, is maybe a sleeper a little bit because Nigel Mansell stolen the thunder the last couple of weeks, but he's right there in the hunt.
Here's Barry Gill.
Well, I'm in the happiest fit at the moment you could possibly have. Because not only are these Frenchmen looking for a 1-2 win, and Jacques Lafitte's first victory of 5 years, but of course they spent the whole weekend celebrating the French victory over Brazil. You just have to be down in these pits to realize how much soccer matters to the mechanic. When Ayrton Senna was practicing yesterday, they actually put out a board saying Brazil 1, the French 0. Unfortunately, it changed round. If these guys can win the Grand Prix as well, my word, what a week they'll have had, and it will be French champagne they'll use to celebrate. Over to you, Chris.
I'm standing in Eddie Cheever's pit, driver for Team Haas, the American team, and Cheever was a last-minute replacement for the injured Patrick Tambay. Cheever is an American, carries an American passport, was born in Phoenix, but he was brought up in Italy, speaks Italian, but he carries an American passport, and he got the ride. It would be a big plus for him in his career, and as I said before, he's the only American in the competition, and his crew here is waiting to serve him if he needs any help. Back to you, Ken.
Working their way through lap cars, the leaders here.
That car they were just passing there was the Canadian Alan Berg. This is his first ever Grand Prix. He did well in the Formula 3 Championship in Europe last year, and this is his debut in Formula 1 because Christian Danner has moved from the Estella team to join Thierry Boutsen after the injury to Mark Shearer in a rally.
We'll be back with more of our live coverage of the Detroit Grand Prix here on CBS after these messages. Averaging some 3 miles per hour faster than the course record established by Keke Rosberg a year ago. Lafitte stays first here with 25 of 64 laps complete in the Detroit Grand Prix. With David Hobbs and Danny Sullivan, I'm Ken Squire. In the pits, Chris Economaki, Barry Gill today. And we're continuing to watch Nigel Mansell get back into action here. Frost is also closing up, but the fastest man seems to be Senna. He's picked up some 6 seconds from where he was after he made that pit stop as he closes back into the leader, and currently is being shown in 6th position.
got some pretty hard work to get by Nelson Piquet, Alan Prost, Nigel Mansell, René Arnoux to get back to the lead, but he's obviously a very, very strong contender in this race.
Senna there, the black number 2.
And of course, the interesting thing is when these other guys start their pit stops, how is his early pit stops going to affect that? He might be able to pick it up just while they stop.
If he can go through on the set of tires he's now put on to the end of the race, he'll obviously be in extremely good shape.
Some 125,000 a year watching that car from the Goodyear blimp. We're seeing these pictures over the event. That blimp is out of Houston, Texas, at the controls, Captain Don McDuff today. There's the Renaissance Center, and this event has become a tradition, I would say, in its 5th year. I never saw anything last night. They say that discos in other parts of the city were absolutely empty. Everyone was around the Renaissance Center, and it was a combination of the 4th of July company picnic, Rio de Janeiro at the Mardi Gras, and New York at Times Square. They were having a grand time. Right now, here on the track, there's a real conflict developing between 3rd and 4th place. Mansell and Prost are getting into it. There you see the leaders, and there's that battle.
It seems again like Mansell goes strong for a while, then drops back a little bit, or are we just seeing Alain Prost catching him?
He may be having a problem with gear selection or something. One never knows, of course, and because not only is Prost caught him up, but also his teammate Nelson Piquet, who's also in the picture there. Those three are really backing it out now.
Great squabble going on here. Prost has already won 2 victories this year, won them back-to-back. Then Mansell came alive, and he won a couple. And now we see those two beginning to contend here today for the 3rd position.
Actually, in those 3 cars right there with Mansell, Prost, and Piquet, we've got 5 victories so far this year.
5 victories and a lot of world champions. And, of course, all those 3 cars are on Goodyear, as opposed to our 2 leaders on the
And
field.
there's the other man that's won right behind him in the black car, Senna.
Right, and also we look like we're catching Arnoux. So we've got quite a battle going here. See the gap between them right there, Arnoux, the lead car, and the next car appears to be Mansell.
That is a very close race for now, 2nd spot.
Looking out to the top of Cobo Hall as they come diving down underneath the bridge here, headed to the off-water tunnel.
Car number 25, that in fact is René Arnoux, is supposed to be going to come in 1 lap.
Which is obviously why he slowed a little bit there. His tires are probably going off a bit.
Look at that clock closing up another time.
It could be, but I thought the Pirelli runners were going to try and make this on one go. But he's not coming in this time, because there he goes right now, car number 25.
Goodyear brought a slightly softer compound than a year ago, and they brought 2 race compounds. Interesting this morning watching the drivers select their tires, and now Prost is making his move. Prost is trying to move through on Mansell.
That's a pretty tough one to try to get around the outside of that corner.
Especially as some of these turns we hear from corner workers are starting to break up. Turn 3, this is one of them, that's turn 3. And 4 and turn 7 are supposed to be breaking up. So if you get a wheel offline, you can be in that wall awfully quick.
And remember that turn 3 broke up last year.
That's
Also the one that gets a lot of water. It retains water. So when you put that much pressure on that kind of asphalt, it's apt to tear.
I think a lot of people don't realize how much wear and tear these cars can put on an asphalt or on a city street.
Well, they look at a truck that weighs 76,000 pounds. They say, well, how come one of these little Formula 1 cars hurt our asphalt? But it's so much side load with the big truck turning dirt.
Mansell closing. You see him continue to move in. And look at this grouping. There they are. You have 6 cars all running. This is the best Detroit Grand Prix today, unquestionably.
Look at that for 2nd place. Now, wouldn't you like to be on that, David?
No, I think I'd rather be here, actually.
Oh, look, there's a move. Piquet had just put a move on Prost.
Oh, yeah, great.
Nice move.
Oh, and Nigel Mansell, did he tag the ball then?
It was awful close. This is very exciting.
And Senna's going to get stuck in now.
Tremendous battle developing. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th man right there. Senna as they go to the Atwater Tunnel. Out they come. Anticipation in the pits for a stop by Arnoux shortly.
Oh,
Now here's the move on the inside. Senna taking one.
Senna taking Prost there. Not an easy man to take.
Up to 5th comes Senna. Now he closes up on Piquet.
And then the pit goes on to our 2nd place car, so these guys are now racing.
Let's go to Barry Gill on pit road.
This is where the lead could change. This is the lead game fix. Very different as you see from America. Up to 12 mechanics. 3 on each back wheel. 2 on each front wheel. 1 with the jack. 1 to put the wheel on. 1 to put it on. Someone has steadied the car and up he goes. And that was how many seconds? 9.45 seconds. And back to the track and back to win the Kaminaki.
Just in front of Dr. Jonathan Palmer, re-entering the race is Arnoux. And now the picture is this. Lafitte is first, Mansell second, TK third, Senna fourth. It is Prost in fifth, Alvaretto is in sixth, and back to seventh goes Arnoux.
And of course, the thing is, we've forgotten about Jacques Lafitte. He's out there loving all of this battle back there because he's just steadily pulling away. But I think he must be getting prepared for a pit stop, because if Arnoux stops, his teammates got to be close.
Unless, of course, Arnoux and Lafitte chose different rubber compounds in the first place, and Lafitte may be trying to go for the race, he may not. It would be unlikely, but he could do.
Charging down toward Cobo Hall, that tight left-hander. And now here's the right-hander that brings them out of that area. And there you see TK right up against his teammate Mansell, and here comes Senna charging once again. A word from Chris Economaki.
I'm standing at Nigel Mansell's pit, and as you can see, there are a great number of men here. I counted 13 a few minutes ago, waiting for a pit stop to take place. We saw one just a few minutes ago. In American racing, there's a wall between the pits and where the car comes, and in Indianapolis car racing and in stock car racing, only a limited number of men are allowed over that wall to work on the car when it stops. Not so in Formula One. Everybody and his brother seems to crowd around the car, which is why they get the cars in and out of the pit in less than 10 seconds. Back to you, Ken.
PK under tremendous pressure from Nelson there, from Senna, I mean.
Yes, but he looks like he's getting pretty aggressive, too, trying to pass Mansell before he went into the chicane. That's not exactly the place you do it.
No, he obviously must have made that little complex by the car park, got it right. This is what the corner is marbling up.
The Renaissance Center where the action is taking place. And the Williams car.
Stefan Johansson just drove in the pit.
Right second and third. Closing in is Senna in the fourth position, the black car.
That's Martin Brundle coming into the pit there. He's not running up
I
the lead.
believe that's his teammate Philip Streff.
But Stefan Johansson's also in the pits there. There we see the leader, Jacques Lafitte.
And not much of a lead either.
And there's breathing right down his next two Williams Honda, Senna right behind him, and Alan Prost in the McLaren right there lurking in what now? Pit stop.
Mansell in the yellow and white car in the second position, then TK coming third, Senna in the black. Lotus running in fourth. Now they go by the Pontchartrain Hotel, make the left-hand turn, and there's the interval from first to second. Mansell there, then TK, then Senna. Nelson throws Prost back in fifth, Alvaretto to sixth, Arnoux in seventh, Eddie Cheever is up to eighth. As a replacement driver, Cheever has had a brilliant day here. You know, there's been a big story about that in Detroit this week. Cheever brought in at the last moment by Carl Haas. He's been running on the World Endurance Circuit with the sports cars this year because they refused the entry of a Michael Andretti or an Al Unser Jr. or any of those kart drivers into this Formula One race. How do you feel about that, Danny Sullivan?
Well, I think it's a little bit of politics there between the boys and Boca and the guys at kart, but I think it's unfair. I think we're just as qualified as any of those other guys. And in fact, I've held a super license and scored World Championship points. So
Could you have stepped into a car today on the new licensing?
They said it would have been rather difficult, but
I find it unbelievable that a guy like Unser Jr. or an Andretti are not qualified to drive these. And you guys at the Meadowlands next week will have your hands as full on a course as tight and as difficult as this.
That's right, but to be fair, I think Eddie was also a good choice because he's gone very, very well here in Detroit in the past. He's had his best Formula One results, I believe, here.
Yeah, he finished second the first year.
For Ligier. So, you know, he's had a good run here. It was a good choice.
Now, I'm not taking anything away from Cheever.
Here we go.
Pass, and that is TK, and here also trying to dive through and maybe trying another groove. Another time, inside, outside goes Senna.
Senna right on the gearbox of Nigel Mansell on that little short skew between those. PK making the most of that, though, pulling out a bit of the gap there.
He did pull that. And Prost has dropped back a little bit, which is surprising.
And Warwick, a lap car in between the leader and second place. It's live here today on CBS, the Detroit Grand Prix 5th Annual, and it has become a sports tradition in the city. Motor City has finally found an event that they don't know the drivers particularly well, but they love the racing.
Senna gets him on the inside there, on the outside.
He actually made that pass in the tunnel.
Yeah, he did, in the dark in there.
Senna with an incredible performance. Here he comes through a lap car. Prost is spinning.
Prost is spinning, obviously changing for his tire, so
Mansell suddenly slowed right up there, and I saw him doing something to his chin as he went by here. I wonder if his spine has gone.
he's lost a lot of ground. He's lost a tremendous amount of ground.
There's Alan Prost, one of these quick pit stops.
And that was a quick
Boy,
stop.
that was a great stop.
Less than 8 seconds and he's away. Just incredible. But I'll tell you, that's fearsome to watch them on pit road. You just know that they're playing with problems. The way they hit, and everyone works on the cars, and they're not paying attention to who might be coming in behind them. Frightening.
There's Nelson Piquet right with the leader, Jacques
Lafitte. We did say that Piquet was going to be the
Battle for the lead.
and he's got it. Nelson Piquet's taking the lead.
Nelson Piquet now first. And look at Senna closing. Remember, Senna made that early stop, and he continues his charge.
He'll probably get him down this straight.
Senna's an interesting story in that black car. They talk about him as being childlike, as being difficult, and they also talk about him as being worth some $5 million to a team next year. He is so precise, so accurate, and such a good race driver.
Oh, that was a strong move on Lafitte. I think we'll probably see Jacques Lafitte before too long in the pits for some new tires. I believe that's his problem.
Yeah, and Ayrton Senna is incredibly great. He's very good on the brakes. He's just got tremendous perception somehow.
Senna to second place, Lafitte dropping to third. Maintaining fourth, Mansell. The stop by Cross will bring him back, and apparently Alboreto will move up as well as Arnoux.
Of course, the interesting thing, too, is that for the viewer out there, they might think, well, we had them all bunched together. Now why is everybody so spread out from the pit stops? And we're going to get them in the next 5 or 10 laps. Everybody will settle down and get back into the same spot.
Look at this scramble as they come down 2 lap cars.
2 lap cars there, which Nelson disposed of on the straight.
One of the Minardi's going away, and also one of the Ocellos. Let's go to Barry Gill.
Here's the Jacobite having his by the lead. Marvin Winston, 14 good races, doing an outstanding job there. Up goes Lafitte, and according to my watch, that was 9.05 seconds. Superb pit stop by the leader of the race. Back to you, Jim.
Lafitte underway. Piquet now front. Senna challenging.
Senna just temporarily being held up by that Minardi there. I'm sure he'll get... Oh, no, he didn't get in there either.
A bit of a break
He's
for
not going to be
Piquet.
very happy about that, but of course, Andrea's not the easiest guy to pass, really.
No, not really.
And wouldn't be real happy.
Alan Jones about to get lapped.
Yeah, now he may hold up Nelson Piquet just a little bit there, too.
The 1981 and 83 world champion, Nelson Piquet of Brazil. Shooting by the 1980 world champion from Australia, Alan Jones. Out of Cobo Hall.
Of course, Nelson also just got him in quite a good spot. He did, and it looks like Senna could be held up in quite a critical spot as well.
I think that I wouldn't say Senna's shot his bolt, but it looks to me as if Nelson Piquet is actually pulling away. Nelson's not making the charge on him like he made on the other guy.
But now, the other thing, too, is that Senna might know that Nelson has to make a pit stop.
Yeah, exactly.
So why push it if I'm in a few laps if he's going to pull into the pit? Why wear out my car?
Absolutely. Well, why wear out my tires? Alan Jones, my God, had an incredible moment right here in the chicane. He must have missed it by a cigarette paper.
And right there in front of Senna, too.
We are halfway in the event. 32 of 64 laps have been completed. As Senna, running in second, works by Jones. And out in front, Nelson Piquet stays first, trying to be the first man to win this event twice. Watson winning it in the first year. Alboreto for Tyrrell in the second year. And Piquet, who did not even qualify in the first year they ran this race, came back to win it in '84. Last year, Rosberg, who was already retired, came home victorious. Right now, Nelson Piquet trying for first.
And also now we've got that bunch of Alain Prost, Nigel Mansell, René Arnoux, and Jacques Lafitte all together again after their pit stop. It looks like one of the Ferraris, and
Alboreto just went into the pit.
Back to the race.
Nelson Piquet about to lap Thierry Boutsen in the Arrows car. One of the BMW engine cars out here.
So here's how they stand at the halfway point. Piquet is first, Senna second, Prost is third, Mansell is fourth. More from Detroit in a moment. It is the most competitive Detroit Grand Prix in its 5-year history. And they've already established a new record here, not only for speed, but 5 lead changes between 5 drivers. That's a new mark, and we're only halfway in the event. The man in front is this man, Nelson Piquet, who won it in 1984, and we're looking at the interval to second place. Senna of Brazil.
And of course, the interval after that, down from Nelson Piquet to the third-place man, which is Alain Prost, is 24 seconds at the moment.
Behind that man is our new in fourth, Lafitte is fifth, Mansell being shown in that sixth position.
And of course, one of the interesting things is Nelson Piquet going to make a pit stop, and does Ayrton Senna have to make another one?
Well, that must be one of the questions that Ayrton Senna is asking himself just in the moment. How hard should I press Nelson? Does he have to make a stop, or is he going to be able to do this without?
Presumably it's a yes on that. 82 and 83, we had three drivers in that front position, and that record of 5 at the halfway mark indicates here we're about to get, I would think, a couple more.
Well, of course, if Nelson Piquet stops, that'll be one more change at least. And then, of course, the thing is that Senna did make that very first stop for his car when he had the flat tire early on. He might have to do it again.
David, watch this car, number 6. You see a piece of paper there?
In the left tunnel there, right.
But if his temperature is up, what they'll do at the pit stop is somebody will just reach in there. That's not a big enough piece of paper to put the temperature up very much at the moment. But they'll probably clean it at the pit stop.
If he makes a pit stop, and if he wants to get through that pit stop, he might have to stop and have him move.
And one of the things we did notice was during Nigel Mansell's pit stop, they were pouring water down his back. So the temperature out here is obviously indicates he's having a few problems.
Better than halfway in our live coverage here today from Detroit. When the Grand Prix comes to the Motor City, it's not just the driver and the racing teams that gear up for this event. It takes hundreds of volunteers to organize and run the Detroit Grand Prix, and Chris Economaki takes a look at the crew that helps the crew.
There's more going on in the Renaissance Center and along the shores of the Detroit River these days than winning and losing. For the 1,250 volunteer members of the Detroit Grand Prix Association, it's the culmination of a year of planning and an intense 3 days of work, fun, and pleasure. The volunteers, 65% female and 35% male, each pay $20 for the privilege of joining and working. The payment is to assure a commitment, says Rena Shanneman, Vice President of the DPGA in charge of volunteer activities. The mix is interesting. Doctors, lawyers, truck drivers, and office workers all pitch in every nook and cranny of the complex, from the pit to the press room, from tickets to transportation, to perform the multitude of tasks required to make a race in a temporary circuit a success. They staff a service desk in the garage area, put up signs, act as security guards, man registration desks for fellow workers, the press, and others involved. During the year, the Detroit area volunteers get together for various activities, including a picnic. 5 newsletters are distributed annually, and there's been more than one romance emerged. One volunteer girl, staffing this very information desk in a hotel lobby, met the volunteer manager of ushers, and their wedding took place on race day exactly 1 year ago. Each volunteer pledges 3 full days of work for a minimum of 30 hours at varying intervals. Some come from the west, others from the east, and there are 100 from Canada. And what do they get for their aching muscles and tired feet? They get a coveted T-shirt, discounts at restaurants and parking lots, and credentials, the very best to see the race, plus the satisfaction of knowing they helped make Detroit's biggest sporting event a success.
Car in the pits, let's go to Barry Gill.
Well, I'm with the youngest driver in the race, Alan Berg. Alan, what happened to you?
Well, I think that the electronics had a problem just after I rounded turn 1.
And over to Chris with the Economaki.
Okay, Ayrton Senna's in the pit with a flat left front tire. He's been in over 20 seconds, and this is going to be the killer for him. Senna goes back on the track, a tough break, a flat left front tire for Ayrton Senna, and trouble in the pit, 24 and 25 100-seconds, a lifetime in Formula One racing. Back to you.
I believe that's the number 12 car of Dumfries as it comes back out here with the white helmet. And Senna will maintain his position now in second place, Chris. The Black Lotus coming back out after a lengthy time in there. That tire would appear to be his teammate, the Earl of Dumfries, the Scottish gentleman who came into
the Scottish lord, laddie, he's the Earl of Dumfries. So there's Nelson Piquet leading Ayrton Senna. and maintaining about the same gap. Senna is definitely not making ground on him. It's just a case, what, 3.5 seconds?
3.5 seconds.
Gap.
Gap. And they're about 24 seconds in front of Alan Pope.
38 of 64 laps are now complete. There is Senna. He is maintaining second position.
So, Senna and PK playing a cat and mouse game here. Who's the cat and who's the mouse, Derby? Which one of these guys are going to have to stop again? They must both be asking themselves that.
Well, we know for sure that Nelson continues at this pace. He's gone to half distance, so we know he's only got to stop one more time.
Unrivaled for competition, this fifth Grand Prix. Getting down better than midway mark. We're past the halfway as we continue to watch PK first and Senna in second spot.
We just had Eddie Cheever going into the pits, probably going in for his tire change. Now, if PK only has to do it one more time, does that mean that Senna can go the rest of the way with no?
Well, he probably can. Here's Eddie Cheever in the pits, and I would say that if Nelson having gone this far, that Senna probably can go the whole way. We just don't know what tire compounds they've got. There's so many different tire compounds out there. We just don't know what they all set their own cars up with.
The other thing is, except for that one time through here, we haven't seen very much sliding around. I mean, Nelson doesn't seem to be sliding the car very much or using a lot of the road.
Now there you see a car stopping on the 40. That is Cheever waiting to re-enter here from the end of pit road with the Carl Haas car. I really like Carl Haas. When they brought out those cars, the first time it ran, they had a lot of problems, and after the first race, usually the company word on those machines as well, it's only a testing program, it's only our first race, we expected this. Carl Haas said after the first run by that car, if that thing were a horse, I'd shoot it.
But I think Eddie, of course, it went out of the screen, but I think Eddie might have had a problem. Even after he got going, he didn't seem like he took off like he should have. So he might have been having, he said he had trouble with the gearbox. It was very hard to shift.
I noticed he did the same thing this morning, however. He pulled right out here and then literally came to a stop. Now he is going.
Yeah, he's going very slow there. He's got some sort of
CBS
problem.
live coverage will continue after this word from your local station. We're back with you live. Here's the Renaissance Center. Nelson PK has just been on pit road, re-entered the race. This makes Senna first. Let's get a report on that pit stop from Chris Economaki.
Okay, we're down here where Nelson PK just went out, and apparently Ayrton Senna's coming back in. The troops are getting ready here. You can see the Lotus men. The tires have been taken out of the oven, and they're standing by for Ayrton Senna to make his second pit stop of the race.
All right, there you
Back
see
for that stop.
There is Senna out in front. Senna now leading.
I think the other thing here, Ken, is it seemed to be quite a long stop. Didn't you think so, David, for
but he still got out. He still got out in front of Alan Prost, who is still third.
So PK is second. Senna is third. Arnoux is fourth. Lafitte is sixth. And Nigel Mansell is back to sixth. Is back in sixth. Fifth is Lafitte. There's the leader, Senna. We may see him pit this time about. Frenzied activity on pit road. So many people working on those cars. Let's see if he elects to come in. This is where he is coming on pit road. Senna pitting.
Ooh, coming into the pit awfully fast there.
And this is going to tell a lot of this pit stop.
Senna's in the pits now. The car's up on jack. The rear wheels are off. No attention whatsoever to the driver. And how about that? 9 and 32/100 seconds for Ayrton Senna's JPS Lotus crew. They deserve a pat on the back.
He should get back out in the lead.
Very much quicker than Nelson stopped.
Nelson's just coming by.
Senna's still in the lead. What a stop. See, that's what makes, that can make it break it.
That's what wins or loses races right there. And I think what Nelson stopped about 15 seconds unofficially.
Seems long to me.
Mr. Warren Company have really got that team organized for this kind of battle. 41 laps are complete. Senna maintaining his lead. PK second. Prost is in third. Fourth, Arnoux. Fifth, Lafitte. Sixth, Mansell. Seventh, Ferrari of Johansson. Then Crazy is eighth. Alvaretto is ninth. And Eddie Cheever is listed at 10th. And we understand that Jones has broken down an axle problem on his car.
Oh, that's unfortunate. They were having a good show, of course, here in front of the hometown folks at Ford.
Now Now there's another Eddie Cheever story developing. Remember, we saw him running slowly. We had him at 10th. Barry Gill can update us on that right now. I think he has Eddie Cheever with him.
Yes, I'm with Eddie. You look very hot and very tired. Eddie, this was your first Grand Prix for 8 months. It looks as if it's been very hard work.
Watching TV and eating potato chips is not the right way to train to drive Grand Prix cars. I haven't been driving for the last month. Practice was good. The car was running well in the race, and I lost it coming out of turn 1. I don't know what it is, but just snapped away from me. It could be a driving error. It could be something else. I'm not sure.
Well, Eddie, I have to tell you, the Ford team have been delighted with the information you give them and the work you put into it. I hope we're going to see you again.
I hope so. Don't forget, I'm an American, and it's always been a hindrance in my career being in America. Now that there's an American company in Formula One, hope we don't forget.
Thanks, Eddie. Back to you, Ken.
Cheever really wants to come back to Formula One. He feels really outside of things this year, and he certainly has performed well this week.
You've got to when you've been in it that long, and then just to be dropped. Of course, his team, he didn't really get dropped. The team dropped out of racing, Alfa Romeo, and this is a good break for him.
But it was difficult. I mean, he had no time to take care of the jet lag. That's a terrible change when you come over from Europe. He arrived on Thursday night and Friday morning strapped up in the car.
And then to jump into a car he doesn't know and go out and, you know, Detroit's not the kindest of place to learn to drive a Formula One car again.
No, it's the first man to win the World Championship. Frenchman to win the World Championship. Now stays in that 4th position and tries to close on our new in 3rd. We'll have more from Detroit in a moment. The effort of Nelson Piquet to win his second event ends here. Senna, the leader, coming by. Nelson Piquet, who has crashed for the second time in as many days, within about 400 feet of the incident that tore the back end out of his car at the chicane. There is Piquet's car at turn 16. It came to naught, and the problems of Nelson Piquet continue. The pressure is really on him as Nigel Mansell continues to become stronger and stronger. Mansell, who started out as a workhorse, just a driver that just a test driver for Lotus, and then became a thoroughbred with Lotus, has moved on to Williams. Piquet is feeling tremendous pressure. There's the Goodyear blimp up over the Renaissance Center. The Goodyear blimp America, and you can see the weather beginning to develop. They have promised us inclement weather, showers for mid-afternoon. The question is, will this race conclude before they have to put on the wet?
I think we're going to go the distance still under the dry. But going back to Nelson, it's very surprising. Of course, David and I thought that he was the guy that we picked to slip through this victory. He is having a tough time.
There you see the leaderboard with 43 of 64 laps complete. And in front, Senna, our new back to second as the Ligier team. The blue and white colors of France fly stronger here all the time, but Senna is the man of the moment.
And another surprise right there is in the 5th place, which is Ricardo Patrese in that radical Brabham that they've had so much problems with, and on a circuit like this, you think that he'd be having more problems.
Although, funnily enough, he went well in the morning former. And he also has got the Pirelli tires, and one doesn't want to labor a point too much, but they do seem to suit the circuit quite well. Arnoux is still right up there in 2nd spot now, and Jack Lafitte is right there in 4th. Pirelli and Goodyear, the tire manufacturers involved in Formula One this year. Jonathan Palmer, Dr. Palmer, come off a couple of injuries and come back with Zach Speed, has taken his car into the 9th position. That is the best showing for Zach Speed this year.
And of course, they'd like a good finish here. They've got quite a tie-up with Ford and some of their production car programs and so forth as well.
Let's take a look at attrition. Here are the drivers that are now out of the race officially, the latest being Nelson Piquet. Now, usually this race is a car reader. 12 finishers, 11 finishers is usually the story. And back in '84, we only had 5 finishers here. Tight, precise track. Just absolutely no margin for error anywhere on these improvised street courses. And Prost running in 4th. Prost, current world champion, also currently leading the world championship. Right to finish well up here. And in fact, with the field set that is the way it is at the moment, only Senna would make much ground on it because Arnoux and Lafitte don't have a great point. The Again, 9 points for a win here today, 6 points for second, 4 points for third, then 3, 2, and 1. By the way, they give the points in this World Championship Series. There is second place, Arnoux.
In the lead, Jay, the French car with the Renault engine. A Renault engine, of course, leading the race in the hands of Ayrton Senna in the Lotus.
Arnoux drove for Renault back when they were putting out Formula One cars. Now they have their engines in 3 teams out here for this competition.
He has steadily come on stronger and stronger in each race this year. Of course, he sat out for a year, decided he needed a rest from it, then sat out for, what, a year and a half from Ferrari. And,
well, Stefan Johansson replaced him, and there we see the Brabham BMW for Carlos Patrese going through the chicane, the fastest part of the course.
Senna stays in first. Arnoux in second. We now have 46 of 64 laps complete. As Nelson Piquet walks away, we'll be back in a moment.
I always thought it was crazy. People spend thousands of dollars on a car. And then when it comes to taking care of it, they try to save a few cents on no-name brands. It's a lot smarter to put in ones you've heard of, like Fram oil and air filters, Autolite, spark plugs and wires, and Bendix brakes. After all,
the word on the street is hot. The word on the street is West 57. Wednesday at 10, 9 Central and Mountain.
Michele Alboreto is on the move. Team Ferrari coming into 6th position with 47 of 64 laps complete in the 5th annual Detroit Grand Prix. With David Hobbs and Danny Sullivan, I'm Ken Squire, and you're looking here at the Andre de Cesare car, which has come to naught, breaking down on course. He hasn't had much luck in this event. Caution is out for that car, and they have left the Williams car, the Williams Honda, that crashed 500 feet from our broadcast location at the chicane on the course. There's a permanent yellow on that corner now. Trying to get a word shortly with Nelson Piquet.
Here we see Senna coming up to the scene of the accident down this little complex here, and there's the track car. They're obviously going to leave it there for the duration of the race, so everyone's going to have to be very careful with that.
all right, I also talked to George Cousins of the FCCA, who runs all this deal yesterday, and he says if it's not in a high-speed location, they were just going to leave it.
That white broadcast booth, the one on the end by the chicane, is our broadcast location. The start-finish line down to the right, about 400 feet from where we are. And we have
that's Arnoux.
That's the leader.
That's our second place
And
car.
it looks like he's maybe collected another back marker, because there was another car right behind it.
That second car was one of the Arrows cars.
Disappointing.
Arnoux clambering out of this machine. This would move Prost into the second position. Oh, what an unfortunate moment for Arnoux.
And they were having such a good run. Of course, also interesting, that moves Alain Prost up into second spot.
That's right.
The professor's at it again.
Third in this exchange. Frenzied activity in the last moments of the race. There's the leader again, Senna. Chris Economaki is with Nelson Piquet, who has crashed. Chris?
Nelson, a short day for you, huh? What was the problem up there?
Oh, my car was very understeered with old tires, and I put a new tire. The balance changed completely. The car got very pointy. And I touched the wall inside, and I hit outside.
You were in the pits for almost 30 seconds. Did that bother you so much that you drove too fast, Bob?
No, I only think the car's very struggling and very tired, and I just change the balance of the car very quickly, and I make one little mistake, hit the wall inside, and I go outside.
Better luck next time, thank you. Back to you, Ken.
Tough days for Nelson Piquet.
And it proves once again that there's very little margin for error in a place like Detroit. This place is not very forgiving.
Not at all. And the track is considerably rougher than a year ago, or 2 years back when you were at. It is brutal out there. The 300-plus manhole covers that are out here, and the asphalt that takes such a beating in the winter. You can see these cars and the necks of these drivers. Knocking and vibrating as they come down here into the main straightaway through the chicane. And that is the second-place car across the reigning world champion in Car 1.
Who's actually 30 seconds behind, roughly 30 seconds behind the leader, Senna. David and I were quite surprised at a couple of the passes that Senna made at the places he chose with that big of a lead.
With that big a lead and on back now, the tourists are about to be overtaken anyway. And we'll be back with more from Detroit following these messages.
Test pilot Chuck Yeager for AC Delco.
A pure power when you need it can save your neck. When you get back down to your car, it helps too. Today's smaller engines need that.
Arnoux walking back. Console after a tragic moment for him. He had second place within his grasp. And it ends here. Apparently, he was tangled up. We're not sure with which car. It looked like the Arrows. He might have come off that car that was parked up there, the Williams machine. All of that is happening in about the same area.
I'm telling you, that's the worst loss home ever when you're running that strong.
Yeah.
Second place, championship point, and something like that. You go and have a mistake. And
Who on the long walk from the bullpen, the long walks when you leave a car behind. They're saying now that Senna may be demanding tires, and he may be coming back in. He was signaling as he came by the last time. Chris Economaki has more on that.
All right, I'm here with Terry Bootson, who walked back like so many other drivers today. What is your particular problem, Terry?
My problem was that Arnoux spun off, and he went back into the track when I was coming, so I couldn't do anything else but hit him because I was much faster. He was in my way. I couldn't stop.
What about the track conditions today?
Track condition, everything was all right, was fine, no problem. A little bit of gravel someplace, but nothing special. The only big problem is that one car was stopped before the chicane died, right in the middle of the way. I don't understand why they don't move it away. It's very, very dangerous, and that's there that I had my accident with Arnoux.
I see. All right. Better luck next time. Thank you, Terry Bootson, the Belgian driver.
It'll be interesting to know if indeed Arnoux tagged that Team Williams car line there, the PK machine. But it's Senna first, Prost second, Lafitte third, Mansell fourth, Alboreto fifth. But Crazy is now sixth.
also interesting, Ken, is that PK spun at that corner and hit the wall, and so did Arnoux and pulled back in. So maybe the track's gotten a little bit slipperier there, or it's also a rough spot. Maybe they just fatigued a little bit late in the race and lost concentration.
But it certainly sounded, talking to PK, that he actually did get a bit tired. Gray skies now pretty much blanket everything. We get a little streak of sunlight now and then, but weather is on the move. It's in as we come to 52 of the 64 laps complete. Watching Senna of Brazil continuing to lead by better than a half minute over the second man car.
The other thing was Terry Bootson mentioned about the car being right there at the track. To the viewer, it must look like a dangerous spot, which it is. But I was told the other day that part of the problem was that Completa does not want to use cranes to take them out of the way.
Well, that seems good. Taxes, let's go back to Terry Gill.
Ready. A very tired Arnoux who's driven a superb race here. This is his comeback season. Ready, that was really bad luck. What happened?
I go in the car of PK.
The accident was caused by where PK's car was.
Yes, but it's my fault also because I see the car two laps before.
Ready, this is Lafitte's car. This is Lafitte's car and your car going superbly well here. How good is this Ligier this season?
The car is not bad, especially here, but it's a pity because I have lost podium.
Well, I wish you were on the podium, but at least France beat Brazil, Rennie. Thanks very much indeed for talking to us. Thank you.
And difficult to do. They have to be bilingual and remember all the... Well, he's obviously feeling incredibly depressed because he knows that he made a mistake. I mean, if he had just come around the corner and the car was there for the first time and he's tagged it, you couldn't blame him. But as he says, I already seen the car 2 times and they just made a mistake.
I think more than anything, because Renee's in very, very good condition, I think anything else is that he's very depressed by the fact that he just made a mistake.
Second place racing, you know, in a football game, you know, you can drop one catch and still do well, but in racing you make one mistake, the whole thing's out. Second place beginning to develop into a battle here, and that is Prost and Lafitte going at it now. There's the red and white car, the world champion, and right behind him comes Lafitte. Well, maybe Lafitte could yet save honor for the Ligier Renault team by putting away Alain Prost. It's going to be difficult. A couple of very strong-minded Frenchmen here, but it would be great for that little team. I mean, relatively little compared to the McLaren that's further back now. Johnny Dumfries is having his best run yet in Formula One. He is in 7th position, while 8th is Jonathan Palmer. Streff is in 9th. Warwick is in 10th. Christian Donner is shown in 11th.
Well, we must also point out that in all these Formula One teams, they're all two-car teams. And the Lotus team is the only one, or the major team, that has a very, very distinct class difference between the first and second driver. And this man here, Ayrton Senna, is the absolute number one. He can have anything he wants. Dumfries is definitely the number 2.
Senna remains in first. CBS Sports live coverage of the Detroit Grand Prix continues after this word from your local station.
Explore Medical Marvels, Tuesday night at 8.
We're back with 10 laps remaining in the 5th annual Detroit Grand Prix. Senna is in front, better than a half-minute advantage. They are ready for him on pit road. If he needs tires, they are standing at parade rest at this moment down there. But if he pits, he knows he's going to be in trouble. It's slowing down to starting up. He doesn't want to stop. Meanwhile, the battle continues right here for second place. Prost trying to fend off the beat. McLaren versus Ligier in second place. It is the McLaren. In third spot, the blue and white Ligier car of Jacques Lafitte, the oldest driver in the field.
Very definitely David versus Goliath here. The McLaren with a very, very vast budget compared, I'm sure, to the Ligier team.
Yes, but these two guys are very, very close friends. They own a golf course together, I think, in Dijon, France, and they're good buddies and good competitors. So I'd imagine they're having a little bit of fun out there.
And both of them spend a lot of time skiing in the winter.
That's right. The interesting thing about Senna is I don't believe there's any way he's going to make a pit stop. He's got a 43-second lead. There's 10 laps to go. Even if he did, he can get in and out of pits easily and still come back out with about a 20-second advantage. But I don't think he'll stop.
This particular pit road does favor them getting in and getting out. He's come off that chicane where you have to slow a bit anyway. And Senna does come in hot, but pit road is where they win and lose a lot of races. Let's hope he does not have to for his.
What's also going on here, which we're not aware of, is what's happening on that computer readout in Pro's car. How hard can he push it? How much fuel does he have left? Can he turn the boost up? You know, maybe he's running low.
59 gallons is the limit they're allowed this year. That's a reduction from a year ago. And as the way they're going right now, they didn't think there'd be any problem in this race on running out of fuel. A couple of races this year, they've had 4 cars retire and 2 cars retire. They said that would not be an issue for today.
Lafitte really does seem to be a lot quicker through the turns. That's where he's making most of the ground. Watch him here on braking and through this little complex. He'll be all over like a cheap suit. He's really doing well on these tight corners. And that's, again, going back to those tires.
I think so, because of course, now I don't know exactly when Alan stopped, but there he is. He's got him. Of course, Alan stopped early on, and he probably has not as good a bite as the other car does on this rally.
Right. They honestly both slowed up a bit because they're only catching up Jonathan Palmer ever so slowly, considering they're lapping him for probably the second time.
Jacques Lafitte in for an excellent finish if it hangs together here in the last moment of the Detroit Grand Prix. Just passing the world champion, Lafitte. Now running, about 45. That's Jonathan Palmer's car. That's the Dutch speed machine that's running eighth directly in front of Lafitte, the red and white car.
I'm very, very happy about the French beating the Brazilians yesterday in the World Cup, and I think he was ribbing Senna, so maybe Senna's going to give it back to him a little bit.
I suspect so, although Senna's not exactly a humorist.
If matters stay as they are, the World Championship standings will change considerably after the 7th round. There's Jonathan Palmer about to be lapped. There you see the standings going into today's race. Prost back in third, which is only worth 4 points, and 9 for Senna. You see that Senna's going to find himself a way up onto the top. Now let's watch our leader, Senna, at work.
Senna coming up to the Cobo wall there. It's quite a tricky little part of the course. It falls away there as you go around that left hand, drops away down this slope. Give it a bit of a squirt across the bottom here, turn left round. It's very sharp turn to go on the Atwater tunnel.
But you see there, he's not even coming at using anywhere near all of the road. He's driving fairly conservatively, middle of the road type stuff, because he knows he's got a big lead with a few laps left.
In fact, Nigel Mansell, who he put away a few laps ago, lapped him, which must have been a bit disheartening for Nigel. Really heartening for Senna, is in fact making up ground again on now, I think.
Here's Chris Economou.
there's more than pit crews. It's a 90-degree day here in Detroit, and Joe Barstow is one of 30 firemen manning pit lane. Joe, what's your outfit weigh?
About 20 pounds.
Well, the question next is, what's it like in there?
Really hot right now.
Have you done anything today?
Not at all.
Okay, just some of the workers here, standing by in case you're needed at the Detroit Grand Prix.
All the course workers around you, they were out here. We found them at 7 o'clock this morning, gathering, preparing for this day. They contribute their services to these events. They do an incredible job. The fast and the famous are down on pit road. The real folks work race after race unknown, just like in this sport. More in a moment.
When Carol Black put new Goodyear Eagles on her Corrida, her tires went
58 of 64 laps completed in the final chapter of this 5th annual Detroit Grand Prix. Ayrton Senna of Brazil is attempting to become the 5th different winner of the event. With a handsome lead, he's just allowed one car to one-lap himself. He now begins to edge out of it a bit. He does not want to run it that hard. He wants to bring it home and win his 4th Grand Prix. That's right at the spot, and they have moved that Williams car of PK that crashed earlier. There from the Goodyear Blip America. Watch the leader down across the start-finish line into turn 1. Heavy braking here, down through the gears. Around this corner.
He's going to be very conservative now. He's got a huge lead. He's just going to try to bring it home with no incidents. I think that's why he let Ayrton Senna pass.
There's the battle for second place. And Rossi
Not giving up at all on
Jeff the Beat.
So these two friends, these golf co-owners of the golf course, still hard at it as they come up to the 18th green. I think Prost has actually closed up a little bit.
I think he went away for a moment there.
But maybe he let his fuel come back up, and he's going to start to boost up a little bit in those last couple of laps.
Jonathan Palmer's car stays right there, too. Running in 8th position, the number 14.
Best showing, I think, they've had for a long time. The car's sounding and looking pretty good still.
The general practitioner, and he did the pointed around. In pretty good shape today. Now, there is Senna. Lead is about a minute.
It's a huge lead.
Here's Chris.
Okay, here's the sign that's going to be given to leader Ayrton Senna. A few laps to go, he was in 8th place and down 19 seconds. The board shows that it's 4 laps to go. He has a 49-second lead over Jacques Lafitte. How times do change in Formula One racing? Now down pit road to Barry Gill.
Well, while you're in the race, I've been looking at some of the glamour, and here's Lydia, one of the many international people who come to the race. Where are you from, Lydia?
Montreal,
How many Grand Prix have you been to?
This is my 3rd one.
And what do you like about Grand Prix racing?
Oh, the excitement, the crowd, everything, the noise, the men, everything is exciting.
And who's your favorite man in this race?
We're hoping for Senna to come in number 1.
How can Senna lose with a fan like that? Back to you, Ken.
Do you have fans like that, Sullivan?
On occasion, but
Yeah, right.
I'm wearing my credentials, you know. I hope Barry got a telephone number in Montreal.
Battle for second continues. Lafitte there in the blue and white car, the McLaren. What a story the McLaren car has been. Ron Dennis's team, so stout last year and the year before. Manufacturers' Championship as is tightly contested as is the Drivers' Championship. There's the leader, Senna. Less than 4 laps remaining in the event. And Senna seems to be on his way to his 4th victory. Right behind him you see Alvaretto, the 5th place car, the Ferrari.
It looked like there was some, right when Senna was going into that corner, they were holding out a yellow flag. I don't know what it was, but they had some yellow out on the course.
A lot of cars stretched out here that have fallen by the wayside.
It could have been that it was just a parked car there, and they were warning them that, you know,
They could have a permanent oil flag all the way around this thing at this point.
Yeah, there's quite a few cars protruding to go. Oh, that's Christian Danner.
That's the A8. They talked about bringing their new car, and they decided with the Aeros team to bring out, and there's Danner running very, that could have been the reason for it.
you notice that he's missing the front wing, yeah. So, but he had damaged that right around the time of our news incident before. I don't know when it was, but
Leader coming down to complete still another lap. Senna in front. A brilliant performance by him today. And there's that second, that was the Bravo car moving in a bomber, and there's the battle for second.
That slower car in there, that's going to hold him up quite a bit if Prost, and Tracy's not the easiest man in the world to get past.
No, he certainly isn't. But Tracy's in 6th overall in the race. But Tracy has had 2 victories to his credit, and that's low Bravo.
Oh, a little chop right there.
This is going to really spoil that race the second spot. So few laps to go.
I think that's probably cost it unless he's going to really be able to turn up the boost.
Back with the leader. Here is Senna. Danny, what is your estimation? Makes a really super formula. A man they say is worth $5 million to a team next year like Senna. What makes him?
Well, I think the thing for him is he's just been winning. He's a hot property at the moment. He's the name in the news. He's always on the pole. He pushes the car always to the limit, gets the most out of it. But I think Senna still has a little ways to go before he maybe gets up in Prost and Piquet. Those guys are still...
I think that Senna is probably the fastest driver around there. They're all talent. They're all talent. Right. The best driver is probably Prost, and Piquet would be high on my list too still. But, you know, the kid's got such incredible potential, that makes him worth a big prize.
Well, we all forget, though, too, Senna's only been in Formula One racing for 2 years.
Right. That's right, exactly. And both those years he's been here in Detroit with DNF.
Right. And he's gotten a lot smarter in the last couple of years. He doesn't make as many mistakes. He's smooth. He didn't get flustered earlier today when he didn't have the lead. He's maturing very well.
Senna's been through, standing by the War and Company.
He has had some outstanding wins. Last year at Portugal it rained, I mean real rain, incredible rain. And he just absolutely walked all over a field of his peers. This was only the second race last year. It was only one of his very early Formula One races. Right. He just ran away from the field and hit.
I think he's got an incredible feel for the car, and he knows how just to get the maximum out of a car.
You know, as a personality, he leaves long to be desired. He's not very easygoing. He's dedicated, of course, totally to racing.
Business as usual down there in those Lotus pits as we get to the final moment. There's second place across the line, Lafitte. And Cross has really fallen back now after he got caught up by Patrese.
Well, that's first position. He's not going to, once that big gap came and he knew he couldn't catch it in, say, two laps, he wasn't going to push it. He was going to stay for the points and make sure he got it home okay.
Alvaretto lines 4th, Mansell 5th, Patrese 6th, Johnny Dumfries 7th, Palmer is 8th, Stress is 9th, and Darren Gorridge is 10th. So Senna continues down here by Cobo Hall. He has been talked about as the next world champion, the next big superstar of the racing, and as he begins to crest and come to the very top, they begin to talk in the same way about young Gerhard Berger, who has had a very good year today. We saw him earning some good laps early in this event. 6 lead changes among 5 drivers thus so far. The race being run at a record pace here in Detroit today.
And of course, it appears as if Senna's going to take the lead in the World Championship.
Yesterday, the Trans Am Series was run here. Wally Dallenbach Jr. came home victorious in that series. Came home under caution, kind of an anticlimax. And that was really hoping for an exciting finish. And the race finished under yellow after Elliott Forbes Robinson had crashed in the last 3 or 4 laps. Here today, it looks like it's green all the way for Senna.
Of course, he's on his last lap right now, so he's going to be very conservative. And bringing home, I'm sure, Lafitte and Prost and Nigel Mansell, they're not in any threat or in any position to threaten anybody else, so they just want to get the point.
A Renault-powered car, the Lotus. The old Chapman Racing team. Looks like they're going to celebrate again today. I wonder if there's anyone down there to doff a black hat and throw it on the start-finish line when this one is over.
Well, of course, Peter War, the team manager there, has been with that team for a long, long time, and I'm sure he'll keep this tradition flowing.
Senna, last part of the course now, looking for his 4th win. He's had a brilliant day here today in Detroit, an event which has found its own place on the sports calendar here in Michigan. immense crowd out for today. Had kind of a bottoming start the first year with some problems, but over the years it continues to grow. Mr. McCabe and company have done just an outstanding job of organization. They've had several races here along with this Formula One, and all have come off without a hitch. They started precisely on time, once in a while falling a bit behind on schedule with incidents on course. And here we are through the final part of the course. Senna of Brazil is about to conquer for the first time in his career the Detroit Grand Prix. Here he comes to the line, through the chicane, the checkered flag comes out, and Lotus has recorded another victory. That is the first Lotus to win, and here's second place, and closing up in the last moment. Here comes Prost, closing on the Ligier.
I don't think he can do it, though, Barry. There's not very many places available for him to fill the pass there, and it's just enough of a gap. Unfortunately, I think that little incident where he was held up for crazy cost him a shot at second place.
Payoff right here. Here they come for the finish. And it will be Jacques Lafitte in second place, the number one car. Prost crossing in third. Fourth place, Alboreto, when it's over today. And fifth will be Mansell. Sixth, Patrese. A lot of interval between them. Here is the winner for Team Lotus. Their 77th victory since they came to Formula One in 1960. And a lap of honor for Senna.
And of course that moves Senna into first place in the World Championship, and I guess he's 3 points in front of Prost.
The Brazilian flag may not have flown over World Cup soccer, but in World Formula One Championship racing it flies high over the Ayrton Senna, taking the Brazilian flag for a lap of honor around this 2.5-mile course. Let's go to Barry Gill.
Peter Warren, many congratulations. I've never seen you smile like that.
Yeah, fantastic, Barry. Super race he drove. Very difficult track, very hard conditions, and he never put a foot wrong all afternoon. He just picked up the one puncture early on, and the mechanics did an absolutely superb second pit stop for him, and that was it.
As you know, Ayrton was very gloomy this morning after France had beat Brazil, but your French designer didn't do a bad job for him, did he?
No, the French designer didn't do a bad job on the betting on the football either. I understand he won about $500.
What about tonight's celebrations, Peter?
Well, I'm afraid that's going to be in coach class of British Airways back to London.
Peter, congratulations, and you're back on top of the World Championship.
Thank goodness for that. Thanks, Barry.
Thank you. Back to you, Ken. A very happy Peter War.
And well, he should be. There's Johnny Dumfries' car, which also had a great finish today. That car coming home in 7th place, the second half of the Lotus combination. There are the final standings today here in the Detroit Grand Prix. Senna first, Lafitte second, Prost in third, Michele Alboreto, followed by Nigel Mansell and Riccardo Patrese. The Renaissance Center in Detroit. The focus of attention for a crowd estimated at over 80,000-90,000. Accurate number, hopefully by tomorrow. That's always a hard thing to figure on a road course. Waiting for the speed and the point standing as the lap of honor continues for Senna. He will now be first in the World Championship standings with 36. Prost will be second at 33. Mansell will be third at 29. CK fourth at 19. Then Roxburgh will be fifth at 14. And Jacques Lafitte with 13. It's a real tight scramble for the world crown this year.
Jacques Lafitte can have a couple more races like that. I'm sure he and France would be very happy. They're going from here to Paul Ricard in France for the French Grand Prix in 2 weeks. That will be a much higher speed course than this one, and probably won't suit the Ligiers quite so well, and I'm sure will be more back in the Honda Williams camp. That'll be their type of circuit, I feel sure. And of course, Senna and the Lotus can never discount it.
That's true. Of course, he's congratulating their French designer. We've got to remember that he's got a French engine in that car as well. A Renault engine, you can't discount that.
Oh, Renault had the turbocharged Formula One engine longer than anybody else, and they're now reaping the fruits of their endeavors.
We'll be back to meet the winner after these messages. And we're back with you at the Renaissance Center here in Detroit. There you see 1 through 5. Nigel Mansell 5th, 6th was Patrese today. Looking further back in the standings, 7th was Dumfries, 8th Palmer, Strutt was 9th, Derek Warwick finishing in 10th place. Here's Barry Gill.
Well, I'm with one of the happiest men in the whole of Canada. Gerard, you must be delighted with Jack Lafitte's second place. 44 years old and as good as ever.
Yes, it's a very nice race for us today because our car were leading the race. It's the first time from a long, long time that Ligier was leading the race. And the result is good too.
How good is Jack Lafitte still?
Jack is very, very good in the race. You know, he's very, very efficient. Always is attacking the people.
And what about the French weekend? France beat Brazil and you're second in the Grand Prix.
That's a very big weekend. We won the race boat, we won the Brazil-France, and then second in the race. Very good.
Plenty of celebrations. Thanks for talking to us, Gerard. Back to you, Ken.
And first in the seniors class, 42-year-old Jacques Lafitte placing second here today. Let's go to Chris Economaki, who is standing by with the Detroit champion.
Congratulations, Ayrton. Where'd you get the flag?
On the track, on the long down left, I saw somebody in the stand. I stopped, asked the flag, the guy, and here we are.
Well, that's great. If you had not had the flat tire, would you have made 2 stops? You think, Ayrton? Oh, he's being greeted by his pit crew here. They're signaling him that flat tire. Would you have made 2 stops or just 1 without that?
Only 1 stop. That flat tire fucked up everything. But fortunately, everything turned out good in the end.
Where did the tire go flat on the course?
No, I don't know. I just picked it up something in the track. I never touched any wall or anywhere. Something came in the tire.
You drove a great job. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
We're over here now with Jacques Lafitte, the old man of the series. You must have been inspired by the football team, huh?
Yeah, maybe, yes. I'm very happy because it was one of my hardest races today. It was very, very difficult because I have no clutch. I have oil on my foot, I don't know where, somewhere, and very sliding inside my cockpit, and a problem with my gearbox. It was very difficult race.
But you can still smile.
Yeah, yes.
And the world champion, how come home in 3rd place? You have tough luck in practice, but all is right today, huh?
It was not too bad. I think it's a good result for me. That's my best result in Detroit anyway. And I think I got 10 points from Montreal and Detroit. I think it's very good for the championship. So it was a very difficult race, very tiring, and I'm very happy.
Well, what makes it so tiring, Eli? Everybody is sweating. What is so difficult about Detroit?
It's because it's very bumpy, and with the cars we get at the moment with a lot of horsepower, it's very difficult because at the end of the race we could not accelerate, we could not brake very late, and because of the bumps, it's very tiring.
Okay, good luck along the way. And now down to the victory stand.
The top 3, all headed for the victory laurels, and there is Senna's crew as he came to victory today in the 5th Detroit Grand Prix. Post-race analysis here in Detroit, first from David Haas.
Well, it was a very exciting race to start with. 6 lead changes. It fizzled a little bit towards the end, but I'm sure that Senna didn't mind that. A great result for him and a great result for Lotus. And I know we're going to see Senna win a lot more races. He drove impeccably today. A lot of the real aces made some bad mistakes, and he didn't make any.
Thank you, David. How about you, Danny Sullivan?
Well, again, I agree with David. Great in the middle, but the pit stops obviously made a big factor when Piquet lost that ground in the pit stop, and I think that gave Senna a big lead. But again, impeccable drive by Ayrton Senna.
Good luck to you at the Meadowlands next week. Let's go to the pit. And I think we have a moment here. We can't get to the pit for just a second. Let me ask you about the end of the race. Were you surprised at how smooth that went for the Team Lotus organization? Not only first, but a 7th place for Dumfries.
Well, I was surprised because I thought there'd be a better battle in the middle. But when we lost Nelson Piquet and Nigel Mansell fell by the wayside, and Prost never really was in the hunt, although he stayed there just through his expertise, I think that it turned out to be an easy day for Lotus.
I think at the end, Alain Prost might have got 2nd place off Jacques Lafitte, but he got held up by Patrese there too near the end to make a run for him. And I also think that maybe Piquet made that mistake because he was a little bit flustered. He had a horrible pit stop, and it was a long stop, which has nothing to do with him. And it is very irritating and incredibly frustrating when you're sitting in the car, the engine running, you want to get out there on the track. And it gave Piquet that big lead, and I think it may have just put poor old Nels off his mark a bit.
Let's take a look at the updated point standings now. Here's how things are. Senna, currently number 1 in the world at 36, followed by Prost at 33, and then Nigel Mansell there at 29. Race summary for today. The end of 64 laps, a new record, 5 different leaders. The record for lead changes 6, and 84.9 miles per hour. That's a new record, 81 the old mark. There were 3 winners as far as I was concerned here today. Of course, Senna with this brilliant first-place run. And for Team Lotus, their first win in Detroit. But the other major winner today was Detroit itself. This event in just 5 years has really taken a position in the world of motorsport. Tremendous organization is behind it, and they've come forth with this year the best race to date. I want to look forward to next year. A final look at the standings now. Senna, number 1, his 4th victory. Jacques Lafitte in 2nd. For Danny Sullivan and David Haas. Along pit road today, Barry Gill and Chris Economaki. I'm Ken Squire. Thank you for being with us for the 5th annual Detroit Grand Prix.
Sinal vermelho. 11.500 rotações nas máquinas. 120 batimentos e a largada do Grande Prêmio de Detroit. Ayrton Senna vai bem, Mansell do lado dele. Senna conseguiu e sai na frente. Boa largada. Ainda Senna, Nigel Mansell forçando. É um circuito estreito. Extensão de 4 quilômetros e 23 metros. A Lula largou muito bem. Na segunda fila. O Arthur e o Piquet atrás dele. Ayrton Senna na frente e Piquet em 4. É a primeira volta do Grande Prêmio de Detroit. 7ª do Mundial. Os 3 primeiros Senna chegando. Ele é a rua, agora Piquet. Alboreto. E olha aí. Nigel Mansell passa na frente de Ayrton Senna e assume a primeira posição no Grande Prêmio de Detroit. Começo da corrida. Ali o Arthur forçando. Mesmo motor para os 2 carros, mas pneus diferentes. Vocês estão vendo Ayrton em segundo, René Arnoux, cotadíssimo para esse Grande Prêmio de Detroit, forçando, e os Piquet atrás dele. Ayrton brigando agora, depois de ter sustentado o seu segundo lugar, com muita cabeça, bate para cima de Nigel Mansell. Olha só, Ayrton querendo o comando da prova. Olha só. Agora, se distanciou, não conseguiu ficar para a próxima. E ele mantém a distância. Você vê os 6 primeiros. Agora ele respira um pouco e se aproxima nas curvas de baixa. As retas são muito curtas, dificultando. Olha só. Alça de mira. Senna brigando. Na frente o líder da prova. Olha só. A pressão. Bate pra cima dele Senna. Nigel Mansell e Ayrton Senna. A briga pela liderança do Grande Prêmio de Detroit. Olha como o Senna colou aí. Como ele procura o espaço. A briga pelo primeiro lugar na prova. Senna em cima. Sexta volta. Piquet vai se aproximando. Arnoux também. Sexta volta. E parece que o Nigel Mansell vai prendendo o ritmo da prova. Essa briga pela liderança. Senna parte para cima. E o Arnoux se aproximou. Olha só. Encaixotando o brasileiro Ayrton Senna. Situação difícil. Olha como ele partiu e passou. Assume o comando na coragem e no freio de Ayrton Senna. Assume a liderança da prova Ayrton Senna. O Brasil vai na frente. Nigel Mansell em segundo. Muita coragem, muita habilidade, muito freio para Ayrton Senna. E Nigel Mansell com problemas. René Arnoux assume o segundo lugar. Nigel Mansell agora é o terceiro.
Uma McLaren no box.
McLaren saindo dos boxes. E a pressão de Nigel Mansell para cima de René Arnoux. Briga que vale o segundo lugar. Tá aí líder da prova, Brasil na frente, Ayrton Senna. Ayrton Senna já abre uma certa tranquilidade nessa vantagem. Aí o Piquet, olha a comparação, você possa avaliar. Senna, Arnoux, Mansell bem perto dele, Lafitte chegando bem, já em quarto lugar. Piquet perdeu a quarta posição para Jacques Lafitte. Lafitte acaba de passar o Mansell e está aí partindo para cima do seu companheiro de equipe da Ligier. Está aí Jacques Lafitte. Duas últimas voltas de Jacques Lafitte fantásticas. Ele ganhou 3 posições. Um circuito de difícil ultrapassagem.
Inclusive a posição de Piquet e de Mansell, dois carros da Williams, bem veículos, bem, o que demonstra, mais uma vez vou repetir, a extraordinária corrida da Ligier nesse início.
Destaque de Reginaldo Leme. A presença das duas Ligier, segundo e terceiro lugares. Líder da prova, Ayrton Senna. Lotus número 12.
Nós não estamos muito à vontade para elogiar francês no monte, mas realmente a equipe Ligier vem fazendo uma grande corrida. Os pilotos também.
Aí o Brasil na frente, Ayrton Senna. Sustenta com regularidade o seu traçado na pista. É o Brasil na frente, Ayrton Senna. Aí, olha só. No box, Ayrton. Agitação na Lotus. Líder da prova. E o tempo de parada dele no box. Tá demorando. Liberado. Lá vai Ayrton. Praticamente 12 segundos no box. Perdeu muito tempo, Ayrton. Aí o líder, René Arnoux. E atrás dele, Jacques Lafitte. Reginaldo, o Ayrton perdeu muito tempo.
Além de ter perdido tempo, Luiz Alfredo, me parece uma troca não prevista. Uma troca, era muito cedo para ele entrar no box para fazer essa troca. Então não vale aí nem sequer uma tática da equipe de mudar o tipo de pneu e tentar mudar o rendimento, o ritmo dele na corrida. Quer dizer, ele deve, ao contrário, o que pode ser até negativo, ele pode ter usado um pneu mais duro ainda, o que é comprometedor. Talvez, o que significa que a tentativa que ele fez no início da corrida, ou seja, da forma como ele calçou o seu carro, não foi adequada.
Liderança de René Arnoux. Ayrton Senna voltou em 8º lugar.
Esse é um problema de pista de rua, né? Se fosse numa pista normal, esses 11,67 que ele perdeu, ele poderia ter voltado ainda na luta pelas primeiras posições. Agora, primeiro que a corrida está no início, segundo que é uma pista de rua onde está todo mundo muito próximo. Então, 11 segundos já significaram 7 posições para ele.
As duas DG, Arnoux e Lafitte. Lafitte agora querendo mais, querendo colar para poder aproveitar a chance, mas o Arnoux abre. Lafitte obviamente se aproxima mais nas curvas de baixo. E olha a melhor volta de Nigel Mansell. Todo mundo aumentando o seu ritmo. Tá aí o Brasil. Ayrton Senna, 8º colocado. Arnoux, Lafitte, Mansell, Prost, Piquet e Alboreto. Essa é de Martin Brundle. Aí o Senna. Em cima do Stefan Johansson. Ferrari 28. Aí o Senna. Brigando pela 7ª posição. E começando a sua recuperação. Brigando já pela 6ª. Olha só.
É a Tyrrell do Brando parado. Embaixo da ponte.
Passa o Ayrton, Reginaldo.
Um lugar muito perigoso. A Tyrrell do Martin Brando parado ali num lugar muito perigoso da pista.
De G25 de René Arnoux e a 26 de Jacques Lafitte. Dois experimentadíssimos pilotos que vão usar toda essa experiência para sustentar essa posição em dupla. E olha só a forçada, Lafitte para cima do Arnoux. Lafitte e Arnoux, passa Jacques Lafitte e assume o comando da prova, Jacques Lafitte.
Olha, teoricamente não daria para fazer essa ultrapassagem, não fosse ali, eu acho que entrou até amizade entre os dois. Tanto é que o Lafitte, quando ele percebeu que ele forçou o Arnoux pro lado de fora, ele até levantou o braço. Se você viu direitinho, ele levantou o braço tipo, olha lá, desculpa por essa, mas obrigado. E é momento de recordar o que aconteceu na última vez que as duas Ligier brigaram por uma posição. Na época eles estavam brigando pelo 2º lugar no Grande Prêmio da Austrália do ano passado. Só que aí não era o piloto com a experiência do René Arnoux, era o Philippe Streiff. E o que deu no que deu, o Streiff tentou, forçou demais, o Lafitte não permitiu, uma bateu na outra e o carro do Streiff cruzou a linha de chegada em 3º lugar, por sorte, porque faltavam poucos metros, mas com 3 rodas apenas.
Agora você avalia bem. 1º, 2º, 3º e lá atrás, 5º colocado num ritmo incrível. Ayrton Senna, ele raspou o muro, Reginaldo.
É, o Ayrton, né? Em qualquer pista é um show, a sua forma de dirigir. E quando ele pega então uma pista de rua, aí você vai ver mesmo, um palmo de distância do guarda-reio, um palmo de distância do muro. É um show e ele vai, a tendência é aumentar o ritmo daqui pra frente.
Aí ele aí, ó. Aí surgiu Ayrton Senna. Eles cortaram pro Arnoux, Mansell, Prost se aproximando, Piquet se aproximando. E essa briga pelo 2º lugar vai ganhando o contorno de muita emoção. Olha só a pressão de Alain Prost para cima de Mansell. Piquet também se aproximando, Jacques Lafitte é o líder da prova.
É incrível, mas lá vem de novo o Alain Prost, né? Ele vem sempre, o Senna fazendo a melhor volta da prova, em 43,28. Mas olha o Prost, que vem sempre ali, preparando o bote, espera a hora, e lá vai ele de novo. Olha.
E parece que chegou a hora. Ele parte para cima de Nigel Mansell e o Piquet vai junto nessa pressão.
É um piloto fantástico, certamente, no momento, o mais completo da Fórmula 1.
Alain Prost, líder da prova, brigando pelo 3º lugar. Aí Lafitte, Arnoux, Mansell, Prost, Piquet e Senna, os 6 primeiros. E você percebe como diminuiu a distância entre eles. A pressão de Alain Prost e a briga. Piquet atrás. A gente compara dessa briga a trajetória do Alain Prost e a do Nigel Mansell, que está na frente dele. E atrás o Piquet. Olha só como o Senna chegou mais. O Senna é o 6º colocado. Pequena a distância do 2º Arnoux para o 6º Ayrton Senna. 1/3 da prova já superado. E ela vai crescendo em emoção, em equilíbrio. Daí Ayrton Senna diminuindo, se aproximando do 5º colocado brasileiro, Nelson Piquet. Agora, a pressão de Prost em cima de Nigel Mansell. Piquet vai junto. Ayrton Senna, 6º colocado. Arnoux e Senna, 2º e 6º colocados. Olha só. Prost passando. A recuperação de Nigel Mansell. Na curva.
Claro, porque o Prost estava do lado de fora, né? Foi mais para assustar o Mansell, mas sabia que não daria para sair na frente.
Mas a pressão psicológica, que é uma pressão importantíssima nessa circunstância de prova que está sendo vivida agora. Arnoux, Mansell, Prost, Piquet e Senna.
A pressão psicológica, Luiz Alfredo, na Fórmula 1 faz a diferença entre um piloto e outro. Faz a diferença entre um campeão e um perdedor. Onde os carros são tão iguais, os motores tão iguais, numa pista onde a coisa fica sempre embolada, é realmente a pressão psicológica que faz a diferença entre um piloto excepcional e um apenas bom. Vamos ver como é que se comporta o Mansell diante dessa pressão do Prost.
Vai ganhando e ficando sensacional o Grande Prêmio de Detroit. Olha só, o 2º, 3º, 4º, 5º e 6º colocados. Arnoux, Mansell, Prost, Piquet passando o Prost, olha só. É o 4º colocado na habilidade, na inteligência, na competência de Nelson Piquet. Ele passa a Prost e assume. E Senna vai para cima do campeão. Arnoux, Mansell, Piquet, Prost e Senna. Incrível.
Agora se prepare para ver uma briga particular aí que está dando muito o que falar, que é Piquet e Mansell.
Olha só o Senna passando. Prost para trás. Na freada, Reginaldo.
No mesmo ponto em que ele ultrapassou o Nigel Mansell no começo da corrida.
Agora o Prost é o 6º colocado, Senna é o 5º, Piquet o 4º. Nigel Mansell o 3º e Arnoux o 2º. Aí a Ligier. 25 de René Arnoux, 2º colocado. O que significa para Nigel Mansell a 2ª posição. Para Piquet a 3ª. Para Senna, 4º lugar, vai se recuperando o brasileiro. 5º lugar para Alain Prost. Dizia o Reginaldo, esse circuito difícil, muita variação. Aí o 2º colocado, Nigel Mansell, Piquet atrás dele, Senna é o 4º, Prost é o 5º.
Agora tem outra coisa também, Luiz Alfredo, para chamar a atenção. A não ser que tenha tido um problema excepcional, o carro do Arnoux, o fato dele, com pneus Pirelli, ter parado para trocar, pode significar que os outros tenham que parar mais uma vez ainda, hein?
Para manter aquela proporção
de 2 para 1.
De 2 para 1. Tiro no box. Philippe Streff. Esse é o líder, Jacques Lafitte. Vai ter tráfego para ele. Os outros também. Olha só a tentativa de Piquet. Passa Piquet. E o Senna vai junto. Mas segura o Mansell. Ele viu no retrovisor a chegada do Ayrton Senna, conseguiu fechar e segurar a posição. 2º lugar para Ayrton Senna, para Nelson Piquet. 3º, Nigel Mansell. Ayrton Senna vai atrás. Ele é o 4º colocado. Aí a pressão de Senna em cima de Nigel Mansell. Tem tráfego para ele. Olha o Senna coladinho, coladinho. Tá forçando. Passa Ayrton Senna. É o 3º colocado na prova. Que recuperação. Passa por Nigel Mansell.
A 3ª vez que ele faz uma ultrapassagem dessa, o Prost também para cima do Mansell. A 3ª vez no mesmo ponto. E a 2ª em cima do Nigel Mansell.
Alain Prost no box. Aí Nigel Mansell, agora o quarto colocado. Segundo lugar, Brasil, Ayrton para Nelson Piquet. Terceiro, Brasil, Ayrton Senna. Líder da prova, Jacques Lafitte. Mais quase 10 segundos a parada de Alain Prost. Bom tempo, melhor em 2 segundos que o do Ayrton. 2 segundos nessa corrida, Reginaldo.
Muita diferença. Para você se lembrar, o Ayrton, a parada do Ayrton foi, a troca de pneus foi feita em 11,67. Olha o Piquet para cima do Lafitte.
Essa é a briga pela liderança da prova. Nelson Piquet passou, garantiu a posição. O Brasil sai na frente com Piquet. Passa por René Anui. Nelson é o líder da prova, Nelson Piquet. E Ayrton Senna já vai para cima de Jacques Lafitte. Tá aí o líder, Nelson Piquet. Segundo colocado, Jacques Lafitte. Terceiro lugar para Ayrton Senna. Sanduíche brasileiro para cima do piloto francês. Jacques Lafitte, a passada. Segundo lugar é de Ayrton Senna. Brasil na frente, Piquet e Senna. Tá ligadíssimo, Senna. No espaço, no primeiro que apareceu, ele passou o Lafitte ao segundo lugar. Primeiro, Nelson Piquet. Segundo, Ayrton Senna. Terceiro, Jacques Lafitte. Que recuperação do Ayrton.
Do Ayrton e do Piquet. Excelente atuação do Piquet, excelente atuação do Ayrton. Está na hora de uma desforra em cima do francês, né?
Nelson Piquet, Ayrton e 2 retardatários. Esse é o líder da prova. Nelson Piquet com a sua Williams de número 6. Brasil na frente. Segundo lugar, Ayrton Senna. Já abre em relação ao Jacques Lafitte. Aí o líder da prova, Nelson Piquet, Williams de número 6. Senna. Nelson Piquet, primeiro colocado. E a parada no box. Nigel Mansell. 8, 10, mais praticamente 13 segundos na parada de Nigel Mansell. Até agora, mais longa. Box pro Piquet. Assume a liderança Ayrton Senna. Parada de Nelson Piquet. Vamos ver o tempo. Parada de Nelson Piquet. 7. 10. Demorou muito. Problema na roda. Direita, dianteira. Vai perdendo muito tempo, Piquet. Praticamente 19 segundos. 7, 8 segundos a mais do que a média. Perdeu muito tempo, Nelson Piquet.
Isso não poderia ter acontecido a Piquet agora, nesse momento da corrida. Uma parada de 18,43, de quase 19 segundos, por causa de um problema na roda dianteira direita. Agora realmente ele perde um pouco do contato, não apenas com o Senna, que passa a ser líder, mas com os outros que estão na luta pela primeira posição. Agora ele vai ter que iniciar uma recuperação aí, estilo Piquet. Vamos esperar.
Traçado redondinho do Ayrton. E outra parada no box. Ayrton Senna, olha só. Para no box o líder da prova, Ayrton Senna. Outro momento de emoção. 7 segundos. Essa foi mais rápida, 8,28. Daí Ayrton.
Mas agora provavelmente com uma diferença, uma mudança de tática. Como ele efetua a sua segunda volta e agora já faltando menos para o final da corrida, ele pode ter saído com um pneu mais mole, como também o Nelson Piquet, porque a diferença foi de apenas uma volta. O Piquet pode ter feito essa tentativa de usar um pneu mais mole, por isso ele retardou tanto a sua parada no box. E o Ayrton, que teve que parar muito antes, teve que parar ainda no início da corrida, agora sim, tendo que efetuar a sua segunda troca, pode ter tentado isso também. Um pneu mais mole para tentar um ritmo mais forte de corrida.
Quadragésima-primeira volta. E Piquet faz a volta mais rápida, baixando muito. 1:41.233.
Olha aí, é o pneu.
E olha aí, Piquet. Mesmo problema que ele teve nos treinos. Batida de Nelson, Piquet tá fora. E num lugar perigoso. Ele não conseguiu agora, vai saindo Nelson Piquet. Tirou o volante e vai sair Nelson Piquet. Roda direita, pancada forte. Fora da prova, Nelson Piquet. Vigia de René Arnoux. Ele é o terceiro colocado na prova. Primeiro, Ayrton Senna. Segundo, Alain Prost. Terceiro, René Arnoux. Quarto, Jacques Lafitte. Um brasileiro na frente, Ayrton Senna. 3 franceses atrás dele. Aí o Piquet, a imagem da tristeza. 46 voltas. 17 para o final. Liderança, Ayrton Senna. Lotus número 12, olha só. Ele passou ali o carro do Piquet. Incrível. Vai ser esse perigo até o final da prova.
Tem um detalhe também, o americano está muito acostumado com outro tipo de regulamento nas suas corridas. Se acontece isso, por exemplo, numa corrida de Fórmula Kart ou Fórmula Indy, que é a correspondente à Fórmula 1 para os americanos, entra na pista o pace car, todos os carros têm que manter a posição, enquanto tiver a bandeira amarela, René Arnoux também fora. Bateu quase da mesma forma que o Piquet, só que do outro lado. O estrago é o mesmo. O estrago é o mesmo, né? Ele bateu do mesmo lado, mas atravessou a pista e foi parar do outro lado. O estrago também do lado direito.
Segundo lugar, Alain Prost. Terceiro, Jacques Lafitte. E um retardatário que pode influir nesse posicionamento. Olha só, passou o Lafitte e assume o segundo lugar na prova. Vigia número 26 de Jacques Lafitte. Terceiro lugar agora para Alain Prost. Volta de número 59. E abre 46 segundos, ponto 2, na frente do segundo colocado. Olha aí, Mansell deu uma rodada ali e voltou para a pista. É o quarto colocado, Mansell. E aí parando, Edich. Ayrton Senna, líder da prova, 46 segundos na frente. O segundo colocado, Jacques Lafitte. Recebeu o asfalto. Esfregando um pouquinho. 60 voltas, 3 para o final. Vai Ayrton Senna. Cada vez o coração da gente batendo mais. Uma vitória que pode ser importantíssima para Ayrton Senna, que teve instantes diferentes na prova. Ele teve que parar a 12ª volta. Se recuperou. É o líder. Jogou toda a sua vontade, até a sua experiência agora. Vai sustentando o primeiro lugar, Ayrton Senna. 3 voltas para o final. Uma vitória que significa para ele, além da moral, além da afirmação da sua experiência, significa que ele toma conta do Mundial. E vai para 36 pontos, olha a vantagem. 44 segundos e 3 a diferença de Prost para Lafitte. Alboreto passou o Mansell naquele vacilo do Mansell. O quarto lugar agora é de Alboreto. Quinto Mansell, sexto lugar para Ricardo Patrese. Só os 3 primeiros na mesma volta. Ayrton Senna, líder da prova. Traçado seguro. Nada de riscos. Brasil na frente, Ayrton Senna. 44 segundos. 61, faltando 2. Vai seguindo seu caminho, Ayrton Senna. Um caminho seguro. Traçado tranquilo. 44 segundos de vantagem para Alain Prost. Reginaldo Leme. Faltam 2 voltas. Uma corrida de muita emoção e muitas alternativas.
Muitas alternativas, como sempre acontece em Detroit. E muita emoção, porque foi uma corrida em que vários pilotos estiveram na liderança, inclusive os 2 brasileiros. Nelson Piquet ocupou a liderança, Ayrton Senna ocupou a liderança, perdeu, voltou e está aí prestes a conseguir a sua 4ª vitória na carreira, sua 2ª vitória no ano e assumir a ponta do campeonato com 36 pontos. Ficaria Alain Prost com 33, se a corrida terminar da forma como está agora. O Nigel Mansell faz apenas 2 pontos, vai para 29, o Piquet fica com 19, lamentavelmente mais um problema com o Piquet, quando poderia lutar por uma vitória e por uma dobradinha brasileira. Podia ser ele em primeiro, Senna em segundo, ou podia ser o Senna em primeiro, ele em segundo, tanto faz. Era de novo uma dobradinha brasileira, tão necessitada agora. O Keck Rosberg também não faz pontos, fica com 14 e Lafitte. Um excelente segundo lugar e iria para 13 pontos. Uma grande corrida, uma grande vitória do Ayrton Senna. É bom dizer e lembrar que até o final, até a bandeirada, principalmente numa pista de rua, não se pode realmente dizer que uma vitória está garantida, mas vamos torcer por ela. Está aí o Ayrton segundo, 44 segundos à frente do Lafitte. Ele tem que ganhar a corrida e partir para uma segunda fase do campeonato com pistas velozes, onde ele vai ter problema.
Tá aí Ayrton. 62 faltando uma volta. Tá aí Ayrton, amarelo na cabeça, coração brasileiro. Vamos lá, Ayrton. Procurando a sua 4ª vitória na carreira, 2ª no ano. Tranquilo, seguro. Vai seguindo ele. Ayrton Senna, abrindo o caminho, lavando a alma da gente. Vai Brasil na frente, Ayrton. Com segurança. Faltando uma volta, Grande Prêmio de Detroit. Brasil, olha só, uma volta faltando. Ayrton Senna, Lotus número 12. Traçado seguro. Procurando a vitória que vai ficando cada vez mais perto dele, mais perto da gente. Ayrton Senna do Brasil. Na última volta, vai ganhar o Grande Prêmio de Detroit. Na última volta, vai ganhar o Grande Prêmio de Detroit. Superando 2 pilotos franceses, Lafitte e Prost, 2º e 3º colocados. Daí Ayrton, 26 anos. Um futuro excepcional, um presente maior, porque ele vai assumindo a liderança do campeonato também. Ayrton Senna do Brasil, Lotus número 12. Com a sua Renault Lotus. Vai cada vez mais perto da bandeirada. O Brasil vai com você nessa, Ayrton. Ayrton Senna do Brasil. Líder tranquilo. Ele procurou a vitória. Teve a experiência e maturidade também. Ayrton Senna do Brasil. Cada vez mais perto da linha de chegada. Ainda Ayrton. Ele é o líder da prova. Vai passar a ser o líder do campeonato. Tá aí Ayrton. E a vitória, o Brasil está na ponta. Ayrton ganha o Grande Prêmio de Detroit. Vibra o pessoal da Lotus. Ele lava a alma da gente. Ganha de Lafitte. Ganha de Prost. 2º e 3º colocados. Um domingo bonito pro Brasil. Um domingo de esperança com Ayrton Senna, que assume a liderança do campeonato. Com 30 39 pontos. Ele assume uma liderança importante. Na virada, praticamente na metade do campeonato. O segundo lugar é de Jacques Lafitte. O terceiro está aí, Alain Prost. Segundo e terceiro colocados. E aí o grande vencedor, Ayrton Senna do Brasil. O coração brasileiro bate forte, bate contente, bate alegre. O Ayrton mostrou bandeira do Brasil na mão. Brasil no coração e a festa em Detroit. Ele ganhou do torcedor a bandeira e ganha de todos nós brasileiros. Obrigado, o carinho da gente. Foi uma vitória importante, na qual ele teve que ter vontade, na qual ele teve que pegar como teve, mas também maturidade, equilíbrio. E o Brasil circula vitorioso em Detroit. Em todos os cantos está aí a bandeira brasileira, na mão de Ayrton Senna, o grande piloto brasileiro, Reginaldo.
É de emocionar essa vitória do Ayrton Senna e a atitude dele, parando quando viu a bandeira do torcedor, provavelmente num lugar de baixa velocidade, onde ele estava vendo aquela bandeira durante a corrida toda. Parou para pegar a bandeira e fazer essa volta da vitória e acenando com o torcedor, com a bandeira brasileira, deixando pra gente assim a emoção daquele restinho que sobrou do coração brasileiro depois daquele jogo, depois daquela batalha de ontem na Copa do Mundo.
Aí ele achou uma bandeira pequenininha, bem pequena, mas grande dentro dele. Ele teve a sensibilidade de um brasileiro que chegou na frente, vitorioso, que vai passeando e levando o Brasil na ponta do Campeonato Mundial de Fórmula 1. A grande vitória de Ayrton Senna, que assume o campeonato com 36 pontos. 33 Alain Prost, 29 Mansell, 19 Piquet. Quinto para Rosberg, 14 pontos agora no campeonato, Lafitte 13, Johansson 7 e Berger. Oitavo lugar no campeonato com 6 pontos. Quarta vitória de Ayrton Senna na sua carreira, que promete ser uma carreira sensacional. Já está sendo. Ele consegue a segunda vitória nesse campeonato e assume a liderança do campeonato. Ayrton Senna bota o Brasil na frente.